Music to the noise, yeah, the mess we make. Machine Pun Kelly get caught in the fake. Facts and logic with a twist of jest. Strip it down to truth, yeah, forget the rest. Humor blows the lies right out of the park. Look beyond the shadows that set the dark. Sparks of laughter fire up the night, bringing clarity where they blur the fight. Cut through the chaos, yeah, the tangled lies. Steve Fun Kelly with a set of clear eyes. Truths and jokes gonna rock this show. Step into light where the real facts glow.
And welcome to the Pun Show, where today I'm going to talk about the main thing I want to talk about today is the immigration crisis, or should I say the emigration crisis, starting with the letter E, not with the letter I. And I'll focus on this later, but like our history in Latin America has so disrupted the politics there for over 100 years that for us to now complain about Latin American immigrants from our end is to ignore that we created Latin American immigrants from their end. Why are they leaving versus why are they coming? So, and there's incredible history that we do not get taught in schools. These are there's things you might know, but there's a lot of things I'm going to talk about today, and maybe even for the next 2 or 3 days, because this is actually pretty extensive that you may not know. So stick around while I talk about all of that. But first, I don't have a product to sell you. I want to talk about one other thing before I get into all that. And this is this weird narrative that I have been seeing people talk about on Twitter or, social media in general, that somehow the Caribbean boat strikes are valid and legal because they're pirate ships. And they're pirate ships because they're not flying flags. And so your argument really comes down to, it's okay to murder people if they don't have a flag in their boat, which right there by itself should tell you maybe there's something wrong with that. But since not everybody is capable of that kind of cognitive depth, I'm going to go through and I'm going to look at this whole argument and point out exactly why it's flawed. So let me share with you this this dashboard I created on why the pirate ship argument fails. All right. So I'm just going to go through, present the argument, and why the whole thing is just nonsense. First of all, we've killed 87 people in 22 strikes. I think might be up to 23 now. The argument: some defenders claim the strikes are legal because the boats are pirate vessels operating without legitimate state registration, making them fair game under international maritime laws of anti-piracy provisions. But the bottom line is, even if the boats were unregistered, international law only permits warships to stop, visit, and search such vessels, not to destroy them with missiles and kill everybody aboard. So this is like another one of those false dichotomy things. It's not a choice between pirate ships being legal or not legal. It's what you can do legally with a pirate ship and what constitutes a pirate ship. All right. So piracy has a legal definition. Piracy consists of any illegal acts of violence or detention committed for private ends by the crew or passengers of a private ship against another ship. Okay. Against another ship. So, I haven't seen the new Five Nights at Freddy's movie. The it has to be against another ship. That's the important thing. It's these boats are not doing anything against another ship. These boats weren't attacking anybody. Multiple sources report at least one boat was even turning away when struck. No piracy requires no victim ship. If there wasn't a victim ship, there was no piracy. This will be the first time in history that any nation has used lethal force against alleged pirate ships without warning, boarding, or trial. So this is not traditionally the way anybody has ever approached piracy. This is a novelty argument made by right-wing MAGA Twitter lawyers that don't know what they're talking about. Even the Trump administration's lawyers are not saying that these were pirates because it's such a ridiculous and ludicrous argument. But still, let's go into some more detail on this. Even pirates, actual pirates, have legal rights. Warships may seize a pirate ship and arrest the persons and seize the property on board, followed by the courts of the state which carried out the seizure may decide upon the penalties to be imposed. So if you're not flying a flag, this is where the whole flag thing comes in. If you're not flying a flag and you're a pirate ship, you can be boarded and you're not subject to the laws of your nation because you're not declaring a nation. So whatever nation you're searched and boarded by, you are subject to their laws. So if their laws say you can get the death penalty for pirating, then you can get the death penalty for pirating. But you still have the right to a trial. You still have due process. And it's like due process as a term, due process that comes from the Constitution only applies to the Constitution. But as a concept, as having a right to a trial is not just a domestic thing. It's like everywhere else in the world has a right to a trial. It's not like we invented trials or something. So you can seize whatever you want and arrest, but you can't kill them. You can take them to court, but you can't kill them. Due process, not military strikes. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, you can't just kill people because they don't have a flag on their boat. So, all right. So, the U.S. already has legal tools and choose violence instead. We have Coast Guard interdictions that have been working for 40-some years. We have joint task force with Caribbean nations. We have detention and prosecution of suspected traffickers. There are people that are in jail right now for drug trafficking. It is not like our only alternative is to murder people. Like, not having a flag on your boat is not grounds to murder people. In October, the U.S. military rescued. Oh, so this is. So the one rescue that people are talking about, like there was the second strike that killed people, and then there was the second strike where we rescued people. We murdered people the first time, we rescued people the second time. So the fact we rescued people the second time also kind of proves that we did rescue them. And the fact that we then repatriated them to their own country not only proves that they weren't doing anything illegal because they weren't prosecuted there, they also weren't pirates. We did not take them and then prosecute them for piracy. If they were pirates, why didn't we prosecute them as pirates? So anti-piracy law, stop, search, arrest, trial, self-defense article 51. This is, just reviewing what the actual rights are. Imminent and armed attack, necessity, proportionality. They weren't attacking us. Anyway, I don't think I'll have to go through all this thing. I've got some comments here that I'll look at, but they weren't pirates. That's when you say they weren't flying flags and that justifies killing them. It doesn't. They weren't pirates. Okay, so now let's go through. We got the MAGA tweets here. Just remember, buddy, Trump is your president, so quit whining and bitching. Okay. I always love these comments because it's like these are the same people that sat there and screamed, "Let's go, Brandon," for like the last 4 years. If you didn't say "Let's go, Brandon" and didn't complain about Biden for 4 years, then fine. Otherwise, just shut up. They'll think again before sending other boats. No, they won't think again because they're dead, and they're dead because they were murdered. So, like, like this kind of grandstanding to justify murder is just kind of like really, what's the word I'm looking for? Sociopathic. I can't believe people saying these are fishing boats. I don't care if they were fishing boats or drug boats. I didn't say they were fishing boats. Whether they're fishing boats or drug boats, you can't murder people. Murder is illegal. Like, and if you're really concerned about drugs, then bombing the fishing boat or bombing these boats is actually counterproductive. It hurts. It hurts the war on drugs to bomb these boats because otherwise you could flip these people. Where do you think our intelligence comes from, Rick? And they're not drug boats. They may be I think probably some of them are drug boats, and I think some of them probably are not drug boats. But I think whether they are drug boats or not is irrelevant because you can't murder people because they're trafficking drugs. And you can't murder people because they're not flying a flag. I think Bongo, based on they're not drug boats comment, I think he's addressing somebody. Yeah, clearly a Trump tard. They wouldn't have done what they did if they didn't have. Well, that again, it's irrelevant. If they heard that they were smuggling, you can't go kill people because you heard they were smuggling. Like it's irrelevant. I'm so tired of this argument about whether or not they were drug boats. If they were drug boats, you still can't murder them. They aren't killing people. If they are killing people and there's like an actual self-defense thing, then yes, you can kill them. But they weren't killing anybody. They were on a boat going away from America. So no, you can't kill people just because they're on a boat that has drugs. They're not killing people. Yes, you can. No, you can't. That's a great argument, well articulated. You very specifically made your point, but you have no substance. You cannot murder people because they're on drug boats. If somebody is in a van that you think is carrying drugs driving down the internet, can a cop just pull out a rocket launcher and blow the van up? Because that's what you're arguing, is that just the suspicion of drug smuggling is enough to murder people. Like, think, Matt, think. Double tap for the win. Another sociopath. Trump raped children. I mean, yeah, but it's not really relevant here. So it's okay for drug traffickers. No, it's not. It's not a choice between the two, Robert. It's not a choice between the two. If you arrested those people and confiscated their drugs and prosecuted them for their crimes, they would not be killing, the drugs would not be killing anyone. And there's, like no evidence that the drugs that they were carrying would have killed anybody. This isn't some, science fiction movie. You would have just confiscated the drugs, which would not have ever been taken by anybody, and you would have prosecuted people, and you would have flipped them, and you would have gotten their intelligence on their, leaders. And you would also know, by the way, if they were really carrying drugs. So no, I don't accept it's either this or that. I think that is a stupid position made by a person who I assume based on the fact you're making that argument, has not really thought things through. Okay. We're really going here with the comments being weird. Okay, terrorists. I don't know what that even means. They're not terrorists. Hi, Kitty. All right, so that's all I want. I don't want to get derailed on today's topic. I just wanted to mention that I didn't want to. There's a whole Substack that I wrote just about this topic, just for people like you guys that are making these silly little arguments. And I'm going to post that link here so that you can read it and maybe possibly learn something. Because I always get told, oh, we'll prove it. All right, so I proved it. This link right here that will go to the YouTube link, and I don't know, it might go to the Substack link. Anyway, just to the YouTube. So go to the YouTube channel and you'll find this link to a Substack that goes through in detail every one of the dumb MAGA talking points about this, except for the pirate one, which is why I wanted to cover the pirate one today, which, is why I'm talking about that now. So anyway, I don't want to rehash all that. So James says, really enjoy your live. Thank you, James. Appreciate you for watching. The onion. Yeah, the lie onion. That's what it is. They've got a lie, like a lie onion, just layer after layer of lies. So I went through, I unpeeled all the lies. I have every argument, every source linked to the actual laws that we're talking about. So it's not just my opinion or something like that. It's the actual laws, it's actual relevant laws. So you can go and read the law yourself. No, Marco Rubio can't just declare we're a terrorist organization and we're not in an armed conflict and all of that stuff, all of the nonsense. No, the president of the United States can't declare war unilaterally. All their talking points are just one lie built on another lie. So I go through, I unpeel the whole onion of lies. And you can go and you can read that. And, so we get, ha, 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 oh, more. So, this is what you end up with for rebuttals. Just obnoxious yelling, substituting as conversation. They're no longer a treat. I don't even know. Did you mean to say they were no longer a threat? Or did you mean maybe, like you're friends with Donald Trump Jr. and you thought they were carrying treats, right? Yeah, well, you're sitting there celebrating people dying. That's pretty sociopathic. Read the article. Read the article and tell me I've got nothing. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is this is actually probably something I'm going to be spending a couple of shows on, maybe even 3. But we have what the right wants to call an immigration crisis, immigration with an I and not emigration with an E. And I'm specifying what that means because I think maybe MAGAs don't know what the difference is. Emigration is where you leave from. Immigration is where you go to. So from our end, it's an immigration crisis. From like Guatemala, the people that are leaving, they're emigrating from Guatemala, immigrating to here. All right. So when you're talking about the whole immigration thing and the whole migration thing, there's 2 factors. There's push and there's pull. There's why do they want to come here and why do they want to leave there? What is pushing them out and what is drawing them here? And we've always addressed this by trying to look at the pull factors and making it even more unpleasant for them to come here than it is for them to leave there. And we've already made it really, really hard for them to want to stay there. We're pushing them out, and we're also now trying to make it so that the American dream only applies to white people. And yeah, I mean it when I say that. If you're not a citizen of the United States, your chances of being able to migrate here are about 20 times greater if you're a white person than if you're a person of color. That's a fact. I mean, a statistical fact. So, what have we done in Central America and South America over the last, and in the Caribbeans? What have we been doing with Latin America for the last 100 years that have caused the chaos that has created this crisis? Like, why are people leaving? This is, I think, a valid question that anybody with real, genuine intellectual curiosity would want to ask. So anyway, I'm not answering your question, haha, because you're not in control of the podcast and actually trying to address a different topic right now. Thank you. So I want to go through and address how our history in South America and how our history in meddling in their politics has caused the controversy we have. And I'm saying a good metaphor for it is like, we all love Star Wars, right? But we always see Luke Skywalker as us. But if you look at what we've been doing there, we're Palpatine. We're the evil emperor. We are the evil empire. And we're the ones that are causing the problems there that make them want to leave. And that goes back over 100 years. I've created this dashboard, which is linked in the YouTube link, in the YouTube description. So you can look at the dashboard if you want to read it and go through it. There's links to all the substance there. This is nothing I've made up. This is not liberal, whatever, or woke nonsense. Any of the little, MAGA declarations you want to use to dismiss actual substance from penetrating your little MAGA red-hatted skulls is not going to work here. All right. This is reality. Have the courage to address it, please. So let's go, and we'll just start here. How over a century of U.S. policy created the immigration crisis. And so this is like if we don't want refugees and asylees here, maybe we should stop creating them. That's my general premise of this whole conversation. We are causing the problem. So maybe we should stop causing the problem if we don't want the problem. Throughout this timeline, you'll see a pattern of brave resistance fighters standing up to overwhelming imperial empires. In movies, we call them heroes. In real life, we call them bandits, communists, and terrorists. See my comment section. Augusto Sandino fighting U.S. occupation. Augusto Sandino fighting U.S. occupation equals Luke Skywalker fighting the Empire, and the United Fruit Company and the Wall Street banks and Peter Thiel. They're the evil empire. They're Palpatine. We're not the heroes in this story. We're I guess you could say we're the stormtroopers, since we just go along with what Palpatine says. Okay. So we're gonna have to go back a ways here, because I always like to start a story at the beginning. And back in 1823, there was something called the Monroe Doctrine. You've probably heard of the Monroe Doctrine. What happened is European countries were still trying to mess around in Latin America. There was still some conflicts going on. There was still some disruption in terms of colonization. Some countries were starting to declare liberation from their colonizers. And then also on the West Coast, Russia was coming in and trying to make claims to Oregon. And so we said, everybody stay out of here. You know, we told any future colonization efforts or our offhand, this is our hemisphere. You stay in your hemisphere, we'll stay in our hemisphere. Okay. So we basically claimed everything in our hemisphere is protected by us. Now they did, like in terms of the existing colonies, we weren't going to mess around with that, but no new colonies and no going after these colonies that had declared independence. And that happened in 1823. It's called the Monroe Doctrine. And basically it survived, even though we made the big stance against it. It kind of survived for a couple of reasons. Europe was still recovering from the Napoleonic Wars, so they didn't have a lot of might to do anything about it. Anything that they would have tried to do would have lessened against the struggle against other European countries. And plus, the Britain was with their navy was kind of like saying, if you want to get to them, you got to go through us first. So it was a combination of reasons that even though we didn't really have the military to substantiate the Monroe Doctrine, it just kind of held up. It was never seriously threatened. There was a couple of things like France tried to, assume control of Mexico a little bit during the Civil War because we were sort of distracted with civil warring. But in general, it wasn't that challenged. Okay. Then what happened is we were in the midst of so there's a lot of comments popping up here, but I'm trying to, there's just like a lot of the comments are you hate Trump stuff and whatever, but and just distraction comments. I'm trying to focus on the actual conversation I'm trying to have. So feel free to comment, but comment whatever you want. I'll just, if I see things that are relevant to this conversation, then I'm happy to discuss those. This is actually I have no idea how anybody could actually be literate and have that opinion. So, but we're going to go and we're going to talk about all this. We're going to go through it when like I'm going to talk about this, okay? I'm not but this is later. Maybe not even today. Might be another day or two before I get into Guatemala and just what a regular man made in Guatemala because of the United Fruit Company. All right. All of this is connected, but you got to start from the beginning, okay? And so yeah, like TDS stuff is so all right. So let's go back to the dashboard here. So the Monroe Doctrine, President Monroe declared that European powers should stay out of the Americas, and the stated purpose was protecting newly independent Latin American nations from European colonization. At the time, this seemed benevolent. The U.S. was positioning itself as the protector of Latin American independence. So then alongside that, there was this thing called Manifest Destiny, which is like basically God gave us this continent and we get to take the whole thing. Yeah, or, between the Mexican and Canadian borders and, whatever part of Mexico we want. Anyway, we did the Manifest Destiny thing, right? We went all the way to the West Coast. We took over. We conquered all the Indian tribes and did our genocide thing and all of that. And then we got to the other side. We were done. We ran out of land. We couldn't go any further west without going into the ocean. So what did we do? We started looking around and we started looking at Cuba. We started looking at South America. We started looking at Mexico. We said, maybe we can maybe we can look south. Maybe we can look overseas, right? So in 1890, the U.S. Census Bureau declares no more unsettled land, knowing that Native Americans had lived there. But in 1890, like that was kind of like the official end of Manifest Destiny, right? And so then we started looking around. 14 years later, we get the Roosevelt Corollary, okay? And so, but between 1890 and 1904, there were some things that were going on, like we said we were supporting the Philippines and their defense against the Spain, right? But we ended up just basically conquering the Philippines and making them a territory and like torturing people, killing a couple of 100,000 Filipinos. We did a thing called water torture, like I think it was water torture. I'm sorry, I don't speak even whatever language that is. So I'm sorry, I don't know what you're saying. Um, so the they would take these Filipino prisoners and they would take a hose and they would turn on the water and they would force water into their stomach until they were like literally about to pop. And then they would step on their stomach and torture them that way. Like just horrific, inhumane things. And like people would either die or talk, and they would do that until you died or talked, even if you didn't have anything to say. They're just horrible things that we did to people, right? And we interfered with Cuba, we interfered with Mexico, we had the whole Mexican-American War, which was all of that was just about protecting American corporate interests and the interests of rich people. All right. Had nothing, it was about the sugar or whatever. So we're doing all that, and then Manifest Destiny is all done with, and then we get to what we call the Roosevelt Corollary. All right. And basically the Roosevelt Corollary to the do I have that written here? So the Roosevelt Corollary is, since Europe can't intervene in Latin America, we must. We have the right to exercise, quote, international police power when Latin American nations show chronic wrongdoing. So this is the cornerstone of so much of our policy over the last 120 years in Latin America, is that we have the right to tell Latin America what to do. We have the right to impose our will on other countries, even if it's to the detriment of that other country. And it all stems back to this Roosevelt Corollary, which, by the way, Roosevelt maybe not such a great guy when you start looking into him. He was a bit of an asshole, if you want to be honest. He was the one that authorized the water tortures of Filipinos. He had war crimes going on, what would be war crimes going on in Cuba and Central America. He was like basically another racist that didn't think that murdering people that were brown was bad. But anyway, what triggered it? The Venezuela crisis in 1902-1903. Venezuela owed money to European creditors and defaulted. Britain, Germany, and Italy sent warships, blockaded Venezuelan ports, and bombarded coastal fortifications. So now this was like the Monroe Doctrine was getting tested. Like, you got these Europeans coming over to Venezuela and they're like doing war stuff. And this is what the Monroe Doctrine was supposed to prevent. So then Roosevelt's like, fine, we'll intervene first. We'll be the international police who make sure Latin American countries behave properly, pay their debts, and protect foreign investments. That way, Europe won't have an excuse to come in. So Europe went back. We, forced Venezuela to pay, and we had the Roosevelt corollary. And so our on the surface, it was we're protecting Latin American sovereignty by preventing European invention. But what it actually meant in practice is the U.S. could colonize Latin America to prevent Europe from colonizing it. And that is exactly what we did. And that is what I'm going to spend at least the next 2 days, probably, possibly 3 days, going over, because this is not something I am saying lightly. I'm not being cavalier in just mentioning this. Our intervention in Latin America has been just colonial. It has been devastating to the countries where people are migrating from. And it's still going on. And I draw a through line of how we've been using our foreign policy in Latin America to basically enforce corporate interests, corporate U.S. interests for the last 120 years. And it's still going on today, even up to and including the election in Honduras right now to protect Zeed's, Peter Thiel's little Zeed. Well, I shouldn't say little Zeed. It's going to be worth billions of dollars. And this is what Teddy Roosevelt actually said and believed. Some races were unfit for self-governance and needed civilized nations to come rule them. Anglo-Saxons had a duty to control inferior peoples. This was literally his thought. All right. So when I say Teddy Roosevelt was a racist, I am not speaking hyperbolically. You don't get much more racist than that, than saying that Anglo-Saxons are better than these people who can't even govern themselves, and that's why we have a right and a duty to govern them. That's racist. I'm sorry. You can say, well, that was 120 years ago. Well, yeah, it was, but it was still racist. It doesn't get less racist just because it was old. And so, like in Star Wars, just to draw back to that metaphor, Palpatine claimed emergency powers to protect the Republic. Remember? Roosevelt corollary did the same thing. So what came next? Armed with ideological justification, the U.S. embarked on what would later be called the Banana Wars. Decades of military inventions, occupations, and regime changes across Latin America and the United States. In Panama in 1903, we orchestrated independence from Colombia to build our canal. I'll talk about that. Honduras, 7 invasions between 1903 and 1925. Nicaragua, we forced a 21-year occupation and an assassination that led all the way up to the Sandinistas and Iran Contra thing and all of that. We forced a 19-year occupation in Haiti that they never recovered from. All of these things are still rippling through those societies today. These are all things that we caused. The pattern was established, manifest destiny, should we believed in Anglo-Saxon racial superiority and to the right to conquer. The frontier closing meant that we needed new territories to expand into. The Roosevelt corollary gave us the ideological cover to colonize Latin America while claiming to protect it. Everything that follows, the occupations, the coups, the dictatorships, the current immigration crisis, flows from this moment when we decided that Latin America existed to serve American interests. So that's the first tab. I'm going to go through and look at the comments and see if there's anything that is worth reading. So we got this whatever person who like is furiously typing a whole lot of nothing. Okay. Kitty says I am literally LMAO. Yeah, I guess maybe it's a it's a good snark day. Bish served as Barack's bunny. I don't even know what that means. Jesus, dude, you're losing. Okay, that's just such a weird thing. No, we didn't. We forced hoses down their throats and water into their stomachs until they were almost ready to explode. Okay, I read a interesting. I'll have to look that up. He read a book once about that called the Imperial Cruise. Um, so racist policy. Uh, they've got real human for a candidate instead of an old senile dementia clown. Like, you're defending Donald Trump, who is a literal old senile dementia clown, and a Pete Hegseth, who is a drunk. So, I mean, and actually murdering people. So I think maybe, three fingers pointing back at you applies here. Teddy was a monster. Yeah. I'm a veteran. I don't support Trump. It's funny how they never think that like Democrats can be Christians or veterans or anything, or actually like also love our country. Like, well, yes, every immigration, like when people come over here, it's on our soil. Yes, that's why we call it immigration. I'm glad you understand how words work. But what caused the crisis? Why are they coming here? Like, instead of just yelling things, please think. I mean, it's really like, honestly, why I could never understand why MAGAs can never, like, actually, I mean, I'm not saying this to be mean. I really wonder, like, are you capable of taking information that you didn't know and assimilating that into your worldview? Or is it just like everything has to be this spastic knee jerk uh, reflex to reject anything that might actually cause you to learn something? Like, can you like really take a moment to understand why people are trying to walk across half a continent to get out of the situation they're in? I don't even know what you're just like, you're a very weird person. And South America ain't, I don't understand what any of this has to do with anything. Um yeah, I'm going to get into that. That was actually based on a real person, and ironically, I think his name was John Seal, and ironically this guy was like 5'5" and 300, and kind of like a gravy seal. He wasn't maybe he was as short as Tom Cruise, but he was definitely a lot fatter. But it was based on this real person named Seal, who was actually he was assassinated by the cartels. Um, I okay, yeah, I get it. I'm what do you think that nobody like? Okay, first of all, learn how apostrophes work. I'm not even going to look at your comment because you don't understand how apostrophes work. Um, God performed abortions in the Bible. I have a theory about MAGA. They all share one brain cell. I had an orange cat, and even when he had access to the one brain cell, he was smarter than they are. So blah 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 blah. I voted for the guy that doesn't open borders for thugs. Okay. I see you don't really read. But are you able to? Are you able to just like stop saying stupid things and actually have an intelligent conversation? Or and why do you feel the need to comment incessantly on things that have nothing to do with what we're talking about? Is it just that you're afraid not only that you might learn something, but that other people might learn something? Why does actual knowledge terrify you so much? Do you think if you went to a library you would like die? Uh so anyway. So all right. Now let's go on to the next thing. Wait, let's get rid of this weird comment. All right. Um so we're going to go on to the next tab here, which I think this tab will I'm going to first go into the what I'm calling the imperialism stage, the economic imperialism stage, and then I'm going to go into one specific aspect of this. First, I'm going to just review like the overall thing, and then I'm going to focus in and zero in on one aspect of the history. And I want you to know, like all of these things, you could go into like a lot more detail, but it would just end up taking like 50 shows to go in through everything. So I'm going to just cover from the basically the Roosevelt corollary up to the beginning of the Cold War in this next topic. And then I'm going to focus in on that A Tale of Two Canals, the Panama Canal and how we got the Panama Canal and the Nicaragua Canal and how we didn't get the Nicaragua Canal, and explain how all of that ties into what's happening today. So first, the Banana Republics era. You know the expression Banana Republic? That comes from this era, and specifically the United Fruit Company, which dominated Central American economies with full military backing. The term Banana Republic literally describes countries whose governments existed to serve American corporate interests. The Banana Republic, the banana part, UFC, the United Fruit Company, is the main company that was imposing its will there, and they are not called the the United Fruit Company anymore. But if you ever look at most of the bananas you can buy at the supermarket today, and you see that little Chiquita sticker on it, that's who the United Fruit Company is today. Fruit Company is today. Chiquita bananas, believe it or not, once ruled almost all of Central America. And I don't mean that hyperbolically. They literally ruled those countries. They had more control in those countries than the actual governments did. And we're going to go into all of that in the next chapter. But first, we're going to talk about what happened after the after the Roosevelt corollary. So in Honduras, the original Banana Republic, the United Fruit Company, owned 75% of arable land, meaning like farmable. The government literally couldn't pass laws without the UFC approval. When governments tried to organize in 1954, the U.S. helped crush strikes. UFC owned the railroads, ports, and controlled the entire economy. Honduras remains one of the poorest countries in the hemisphere with high violence rates, major source of asylum seekers fleeing gang violence and poverty rooted in this century of exploitation. This is also the country that Juan Orlando Hernandez got pardoned by Donald Trump fame, who also is trafficked drugs for the Sinaloa cartel fame. This country right here is the original Banana Republic. And the banana in the Banana Republic is the Chiquita banana. Guatemala, there, the UFC owned the railroads, the port, the telephone company, and massive amounts of land. Much of it they weren't even using. USC controlled more of Guatemala's infrastructure than Guatemala's government did. The Dulles brothers both had financial ties to UFC. If you don't know who the Dulles brothers are, Dulles International Airport is named after one of them. And if you've ever heard of the domino theory, which basically was our foreign policy that established the entire Cold War, was because of them. And we're going to get into that. Nicaragua. U.S. Marines occupied Nicaragua for 20. This is all before 1950. U.S. Marines occupied Nicaragua for 21 years to protect American business interests. When Augusto Cesar Cedeno led resistance against the occupation, we hunted him with planes and troops. When we finally left in 1933, we installed the Somoza family dictatorship that would last 43 years. And Cedeno was Luke Skywalker. We're going to talk about him in the next tab, but this is like really a fascinating story. And we're talking, like, if you don't know about this guy, when we talk about the Sandinistas in the 80s, they were named after Sandino. Like a Sandinista is somebody that followed Sandino. The person they were rebelling against in the 80s was this Somoza guy, who's the one who killed him. And the way he killed him was like a literal red wedding type story. So we're going to get into all that. Hang around and listen to that. It's actually really like incredibly disturbing what we did with Nicaragua, Panama, and Honduras, or in Venezuela, I think. So then Haiti, we refused to let U.S. banks take over their national bank and refused to dissolve their military. Haiti refused to let U.S. banks take over their national bank and dissolve their military. So like Haiti had the audacity to want its own banking system and military. So we invaded Haiti, occupied for 19 years, rewrote their constitution. FDR, who was also a bit of an asshole in a lot of ways, not just picking sides here. He later bragged about writing it himself. FDR was also a racist. Hate to break it to you. I mean, there were a lot of good things that came out of FDR, but don't get me wrong. A lot of problems that exist today are because he was a racist and forced them into accept it at gunpoint. Thousands of Haitians killed resisting occupation. Haiti has never recovered from centuries of exploitation. The current gang violence and state collapse trace back to institutions we destroyed and dictators we empowered. The pattern repeated everywhere. Cuba, Panama. We'll get into why Panama even exists as a state. Sorry, got some hiccups here. Dominican Republic, Mexico. The pattern repeated everywhere, occupied to protect corporate interests, install compliant dictators, suppress any resistance, extract resources and profits. So for a century, we have been doing this, and we can't just ignore that and say, well, if you work hard, you can get ahead. All right. There's actual like things that actually happen that we actually have to look at and analyze before we can just say stupid things. Okay. Okay, I think trans women are, I don't know what this has to do with trans, like, you know that MAGAs lose the argument whenever they just randomly start yelling about trans people. It's like they've got stupid Tourette's or something. It's like they just start yelling the word trans out of nowhere because they're so afraid of actually like learning something. Um, um, I honestly didn't know bots could vote. How come like how do bots vote? I did not know a Russian bot could vote. I think we should look into that. If we're going to be looking into, like dead people voting and illegal immigrants voting, which neither of those happen, why aren't we looking into, like Russian bots voting? Okay. Gotta have, I don't know what sources you're asking for. As I've said, if you're talking to me and not to somebody else, I have sources that are in the dashboard that I created and shared. Um, so, all right. That said, okay, train for everyone. Illegals are taking your jobs. Illegals are still. Yeah, it's just like one brain cell uh, yelping about made up things. Like honestly, I have never met anybody whose life was destroyed because trans people exist. If he is not careful, even what's her name, the fifth place Riley, whatever, is that her name? Riley Gaines. Nobody ever got as much off of a fifth place finish as she did. Like, name the first four finishers. Nobody cares about the people that finished 1 through 4 or the trans person she tied with. She's the one that made all the money off of finishing fifth, tying for fifth. Anyway. So, all right. So I'm gonna get rid of this haha person just because she's just it's whoever they are is just being disruptive. So, all right. Kelly's a girl's name. Well, it was named after a guy that won the Congressional Medal of Honor. He won it from 2 different services. Only person that's ever done that. His name was Kelly. His last name was Kelly. So, if you want to say congressional honors member, congressional honor winner is like Congressional Medal of Honor winner. Man, I'm having a hard time talking today. But yeah, there you go. So, yeah, people get injured playing sports all the time. And the person who actually got the concussion from a trans volleyball player does not feel the same way you do about the trans volleyball player. I think you should know that. She does not like that people are using her as some sort of victim. She does not hate the trans volleyball player. She will defend the trans volleyball player's rights, unlike you. Well, it's like trans people live in so many people's heads. They do because they need a scapegoat. They need something to deflect from any actual conversation. Like somehow trans people existing means it's okay that America has over a century of colonializing South America, creating chaos down there, and and creating this new immigration crisis that we call it. It's like they're so weird. They are not capable of actually focusing on an actual problem and looking at it and thinking about it without just yelling stupid things. I have not read that. I hope I remember to look at these books you're recommending afterwards. But anyway, Next thing I want to do, and this is like, I want to get into two canals because this really shows how this is just one aspect of one story. All right. I'm going to tell you about how the Panama Canal came to be and why we don't have a Nicaragua Canal, which would have actually been preferred. It was actually the better route. And the Panama Canal, like, is actually pretty amazing feat. We had to move, or like millions of tons of dirt was moved to like create it. Like you basically sawed a peninsula in half. It's pretty extraordinary. Nicaragua was preferable because there were lakes there. It would have been easier. But why did we choose Panama and not Nicaragua? Why was there a Panama to even choose? Did you know that Panama only exists so we could build the Panama Canal? That's what I'm going to go into right now. I took a Panama Canal and we did a deep dive. So yeah, so you probably, it is so badass. So anyway, already read that. So the prize was a canal connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. The nation that controlled it would dominate global trade and military power. So like, just think, before the Panama Canal, before there was any canal at all, if you wanted to get around the Americas, you had to go all the way down below Argentina and up. You had to go around the continent. You just couldn't go through. So the Panama Canal meant you could go straight through. And that's why it was such an extraordinary achievement and such an extraordinary goal. And the U.S., and it's why the U.S. wanted to make sure that we had control of that thing. We wanted to make sure that it was our canal. Okay. So initially, we actually had a vote in Congress that we were going to create a canal in Nicaragua. It was the preferred place. We had a unanimous consent vote that it was going to be in Nicaragua first. Did you know that? So, what happened? Why did we not get one in Nicaragua? Why do we have a Panama Canal instead of a Nicaragua Canal? All right. There was a guy, you may have heard of him, and his name was J.P. Morgan. Like the whole J.P. Morgan, you know, like today, the financial firm, the guy that started that, actual J.P. Morgan. Did I not include this? I forgot to include the Panama Canal. Oh. Okay, so let's go through this and so what happened is, before this started, I didn't update my timeline. So this JP Morgan guy, there was a French company that started a company that was trying to build a Panama Canal. And they got halfway through it and they spent like $150 million and they ran out of money. So then JP Morgan went and he bought this for pennies on the dollar. He bought this now defunct company and what they had done so far, they had gotten nearly halfway through the Panama Canal when they went belly up. And he bought that for pennies on the dollar. And then he went and he sold that stock to certain investors here in the United States, along with this other guy named Cromwell. And so those two had all this money invested in this Panama Canal. Then, after the United States had already said, we want to build a canal in Nicaragua, guess what happened? He paid a senator to flip his vote and ended up changing the entire vote. And so then they had a new vote and Panama won. All right. So he also just conveniently happened to give that politician the maximum contribution before he flipped his vote and flipped the Senate. So this one guy, J.P. Morgan of J.P. Morgan fame, he bought the Panama Canal, and he bought the U.S. buying the Panama Canal. So then he sold the rights to the Panama Canal to the United States after they flipped their vote, and he made what is equivalent to the U.S. in modern U.S. dollars, like $1 billion off of this, off of basically just a real estate deal. So then we had the Panama Canal, right? But there was a problem. The country of, I think, Venezuela or Colombia, that's it. Colombia actually owned Panama. Like, Panama was a territory of Colombia. And there was in the contract they had written with this French company, after a certain date, which was like a year or two away, the rights to the Panama Canal was going to defer to them. And in the legislation that passed by Congress, it was, we're only going to allow this to happen if you get an agreement with Colombia. So we'll build the Panama Canal, but only if you get Colombia to agree with, because Colombia owned the rights to Panama. You follow me? So then what happened is Colombia voted on the deal we gave them, and they voted it down because they wanted to get the rights themselves in a couple of years. So Colombia didn't want to do it. We did want to do it. So we instigated a rebellion in Panama. And then we sent the U.S. Marines down to Colombia to aid with this, like, rebellion that we had instigated. And Panama became a country instead of a part of Colombia. And then we built the Panama Canal in the new state of Panama. So we literally created a state so that we could create a canal. You follow me? So what about the Nicaragua Canal? So this is, while we're still building this, and we're like, it's amazing feat of work, right? But of course, the work is all being done by, like, Haitians and Caribbean people and West Indies people and all of that, like the ones that are, like the really poor people, and they're dying of malaria and stuff to build this canal. Black people, that's what I mean. So they're building this incredible feat, which it really is, like, astounding how much work went into that, especially considering the tools they had at their use. They didn't have anything much more complex than steam engines at the time. And they're moving just hundreds of millions of tons of dirt and hard rock and carving it out and cutting this peninsula in half, right? So then Honduras is like, we could do this cheaper and better, and it would actually be a better place for a canal because we've got lakes, and so, like, more ships could go through, and it's closer to the United States. And so, and that's for the same reasons that initially the United States wanted to put one through Nicaragua, are the same reasons that Nicaragua started looking at it. And there was a guy that was the leader of Nicaragua at the time, and his name was President Jose Santos Zelaya. And he tried to unify Central America under his leadership. He was trying to, like, get all of the United States of Central America or something, Honduras, and he wanted to unite all of those countries, and he wanted to dig a Nicaragua Canal. And he was working with the Germans and the Japanese to help fund it. And this really pissed off America. They did not want this European interference coming through. They didn't want Japanese interference coming through, even though they had a better route than Panama. Even Germany was interested. So, like, you had these countries that were looking into investing in it, and so it was like, one, it was going to destroy, like, the Panama Canal that we had gone through all this trouble to establish and still hadn't even completed. And then Nicaragua comes in thinking that it has the audacity to, like, be independent of America, and they're going to build their own. So while we're still building the Panama Canal, the U.S. backed a conservative party that rebels against Zelaya. And we withdrew diplomatic recognition from Nicaragua. We sent warships to their course, and we forced Zelaya to resign. And we refused to recognize his successor. And we supported the rebels until our guy, a guy named Juan Estrada, took power. So we basically just full on supported and endorsed a coup. We arranged for Panama to set up as a nation, and then when Nicaragua tried to build its own canal that was against our interests, we just overthrew the country, and we replaced a puppet president instead. And then it's not even over yet. This is where the story gets interesting. Because we had put Nicaragua through all of this, they were in a lot of debt, and they couldn't afford to pay off this debt. And there's this guy named Knox, who was the secretary of something or other. I think he was secretary of Treasury or something. But we gave them a loan so that they could pay off their debts to Europe. And this loan basically gave us control over the entire country. It gave us control over their banking system and everything. I compare it to like a payday loan for countries. It was this really, really horrible loan. And it lasted for a long time. The bankers that made the loan got first crack at whatever money Nicaragua raised. So like they got their money before roads were built, before anything that they needed to do as a nation happened. So of course that has a detrimental effect on the Nicaraguan economy, right? Like we destroyed their economy by throwing a coup and then giving them a loan that they had to accept. They didn't really have a choice. And we forced this loan on them that imposed our own will, and American private citizens were making decisions about how the Nicaraguan government was run. So then what happened in 1912, Nicaragua didn't like it. And they rebelled. Luis Mena, Nicaragua's Secretary of War, gained support by accusing President Diaz, the puppet president installed by the United States, of selling out the nation to New York bankers, which he actually did. You know, if you're being fair, he was right. So then Mena's opposition turned into rebellion. We sent in the Marines and started a 21-year occupation. During that 21 years of occupation, U.S. occupation in Nicaragua, there was a guy named Augusto Cesar Sandino who took up arms against the U.S. occupation. And if you've ever heard of the Sandinistas were came out of the movement he started. They're called Sandinistas because they followed Sandino. So when even if you fast forward 60 years up to the Iran-Contra thing and the drug trafficking, which we'll get through, and the Sandinistas that Reagan opposed, those were followers of Sandino, of this guy, the Sandino guy. So Sandino was Nicaragua's Luke Skywalker. He was a scrappy guerrilla fighter in the mountains. I mean, he's like every 80s flick that involved, like this kind of thing. He was like Red Dawn. He was Luke Skywalker. He was the scrappy young hero. He fought up in the mountains. He got people to surround him. He was fighting against this imperial power with super technology. He used, for then, he was fighting against superior technology, and he used mobility and popular support to overcome superior firepower. He inspired others with his idealism and courage. And he was fighting for his homeland's freedom. Like we talk about our revolution. Why are we the only country that's allowed to have a revolution? He was fighting against the imperial power, and we were the imperial power. The U.S. was the empire, overwhelming military force, occupying foreign territory. We claimed to bring civilization and order, which we weren't. We were just keeping them from building their own canal and having self-determination and being able to decide their own futures. We used aerial bombings against guerrillas. We called resistance leader a bandit, which actually, at the time was pretty tame language, if we're being honest. Like we had called him we called them worse things later. But he wasn't. He was just a guy that wanted independence for his own country, just like George Washington. He just wanted to defend his own country from foreign invaders. So eventually, believe it or not, Sandino won. He forced U.S. withdrawal in 1933. Then we had him assassinated at a peace dinner in 1934 and installed a 43-year dictatorship. So what happened is this other guy that I talked about earlier, Serrato, he negotiated peace. Sandino negotiated peace. The U.S. withdrew. And then this other guy that was like the Secretary of Defense, I think, at the time, they had a peace dinner and promised the safety for the people that came, right? And so Sandino came to this dinner, ate the dinner along with his other leaders, and they had a nice little feast and everything. And then after it was over, he had his troops, U.S. trained National Guard, take out Sandino and his leaders and shoot them. This is like a literal red wedding in real life. He murdered the guy after he won, after there was peace, after he was promised safety. He just murdered Sandino. And then this guy became the new president of Nicaragua, where he was there for like 34 years or 43 years. He was the dictator. Just an evil dude. And this is the dude that Ronald Reagan took his side over the Sandinistas, who weren't communist in spite of what you've heard. We'll go into that later. But the Sandinistas weren't communists. They weren't Marxists. Some of them quoted Marx, but they weren't really Marxists. They didn't argue for seizing private property or anything like that. It was just like today, where people just shout communism to justify evil. And the end result of this was 43 years of this one dictator that was okay, even though he was evil and did terrible things and made Nicaragua unlivable for everybody that was there for 43 years. It was okay because he was rubber stamped by the United States, and he wasn't making problems for corporate America. So 115 years later, this is after all of this stuff with Panama and Nicaragua. The Panama Canal, by the way, once we finished it, it was actually pretty amazing. Did you know that from like the completion of the Panama Canal to World War II, it accounted for about 4% of our gross domestic product? Like the revenue created from the Panama Canal every year was like 100 times what we paid for it. It was actually really something. And so hang on, somebody says, what's going on here? So we've got a lot of wows from Canyon Wise. It's really a crazy story, isn't it, Canyon? So, but Nicaragua, that became like their whole state, like that's how much revenue it was worth. Panama, just basically that was their economy. And you always have to wonder, where would Colombia be right now? It's one of the poorest nations on earth, and it ended up becoming the major distributor of cocaine. What would have happened if we hadn't done that? What if we had allowed the canal to go through? If we hadn't forced Panama into existence? Like, what if we had just let Colombia keep Panama? Anyway, how much of the drug traffic would we still be facing if we hadn't like basically forced them into poverty? Political institutions shaped by decades of U.S. control. We didn't give up the canal zone until 1999, and now Donald Trump is sitting there trying to reclaim it, even if it's by force. So we're not learning our lessons from history, right? Intervention in South America has caused all of the problems that are causing immigration, and yet we still want to keep doubling down on the problems that we are causing. Nicaragua, the country we destroyed, 21-year occupation, followed by the 43-year Somoza dictatorship. And then in the 1980s, we funded the Contra War and the whole CIA cocaine trafficking thing, which we'll go into later. Today, they're the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. This is what do you see what I'm saying? This did not happen by accident. This is not something that just happened separate from our intervention there. It's currently under a dictatorship by a guy named Ortega. We've got people fleeing poverty and repression that we helped create. Like, we caused the reasons that they are emigrating with an E. That's why they are immigrating here with an I. We overthrew Nicaragua in 1909 because their president tried to let Germany build a competing canal. That's it. That's the reason. Not democracy, not human rights, not freedom, nothing else. They had the audacity to decide that they could cooperate with Germany to compete, to build a competing canal. They had the audacity to claim autonomy from the United States. So tell me how that's different from us acting like an empire. Then we gave Nicaragua a predatory loan that put Wall Street in control of their finances. When they resisted, we occupied for 21 years. When a hero forced us out, we had him killed and installed a dictatorship. 116 years later, Nicaraguans are arriving at our border seeking asylum. They're fleeing conditions we created. We destroyed their government because we wanted a canal monopoly, and we're still punishing them for it. And this is what I mean. The facts matter. Republicans always kick against the facts. They always want to say, no, no, no. They'll either deny the facts, or they'll protest the facts, or they'll keep saying, prove it, prove it, prove it, even after it's been proven, or they'll start yelling about trans people. We're only partly responsible. They're also sabotaging. But we caused all the chaos there. You can't separate it. You can't just say, oh, well, they're doing it too. We don't know what they would be doing if we weren't meddling. You can't cause chaos and then say, oh, well, they're acting chaotically. Of course they are. We put in dictators. We made it so that now there has to be rebellion. Like, I don't understand why that's a complex thought for you. We created the crisis. We can't complain about how they're behaving in the crisis that we created. Where we did wrong things. Why can't we just say that we did wrong things historically and then own those wrong things that we did? Why do we have to then blame the people that we did the wrong things to? This is all connected. And I'm debating whether I want to go through the next tab today or not. Well, it's going to be 2 tabs, and then it gets complicated. So, anyway, is anybody? Let's see if we got some trans military ban upheld. Yeah, I like this word activist judges is such a weird expression. How is it's like you feel like the word activist, just installing the word activist in front of judges makes their legal opinion not matter. The Supreme Court is activist judges. They're the ones that are like making decisions that they don't even defend. They don't even write legal opinions for. They just sit there and, well, we decided you don't have rights. I don't care what the court what was upheld. Trans people exist. They exist outside of the United States. They exist outside of our time frame. Throughout virtually every recognized civilization in the history of Earth, trans people have existed. It is trans people exist. And so what you are arguing is that some people don't have rights. And that's what the court is saying, that some people, for whatever reason, don't have rights. Why should trans people not be able to exist? Just tell me that. Why should they not be allowed in the military? I'll tell you a little story. When I was in the military in the 90s, in the early 90s, I was there from 86 to 90. So it was actually in the 80s, I guess. But it was maybe like 1990. I think it was 1990 that this happened. I was at San Vito Air Station in Italy. And there was a small group of people who were gay and whom I was also friends with. I'm not gay. I don't have any problem with being gay. I'm not saying I'm not gay as some sort of defense. I'm just, not gay. I don't care if people are gay or not. But anyway, I had friends who were gay. And this was back even before Don't Ask, Don't Tell existed. And so what happened is the OSI, the Office of Special Investigations, which is like the Air Force version, it was the AFOSI. It was like the Air Force version of NCIS. They ran a sting operation to get these gay people. All right. So what happened is one night I had, I went home with a friend and he was gay and he thought maybe I was. And so he asked me if I was interested. And I said, no, I'm not gay, but no offense, just not into guys. And so we were still friends after that. And then a couple of weeks later, same thing happened with another guy. I told him the same thing. I said, but you know what? I know another guy that's gay. If you're interested in him, because it's not like in the Air Force in the 90s, in the late 80s and early 90s, that there was a lot of gay people running around. So I said, there's this other guy that's gay, right? So I was thinking I was doing him I was thinking I was doing them both a favor. The next day, I get called into the OSI to be questioned. And they want me to write down and turn in this other gay guy. And so I refused to cooperate. Long story short, I ended up getting drummed out of the Air Force because I wouldn't testify against a guy for being gay. And so I separated 10 months later, and I do not regret that decision at all. I'm not going to put my name on destroying somebody's life because they were gay. I don't care if somebody is gay in the military or if somebody is trans for leaving the military. I care about not having a military that only defends the rights of certain people. You can't sit there and talk about the military and the men and women in our military standing up for our rights and defending our rights when they are the ones literally stripping them. So you can celebrate all you want about this, defending the trans ban. I am appalled that we have a military that strips our rights instead of defends them. And I have a moral ground there more than you do. Somebody says I am ignorant on this topic. Okay, so I would just say go back, watch the whole podcast, and there's a since you're in the YouTube thing, there's a link to the dashboard, and that explains everything too, as well as the thing. Thank you for your service, Kelly. Thank me too. I'm proud of my service, and I'm proud of the way I left. Good on you for living actual America. And this is, I feel like real patriotism is like, I would say patriotism is like marriage. All right. Real love is not just going along with whatever your wife says or going along with whatever your spouse says. Real love is working through conflicts together and coming out the other side. And, it's endurance. Real patriotism is working for a better country, not just screaming America first and waving around an American flag. What service Navy big butt poops on Air Force? I have I didn't I looked at all four services, and my ASVAB scores were too high for the Marines and the Army, and I didn't want to have my first name be Seaman, so joined the Air Force. No, actually, the real reason I didn't join the Army is because I went in there and they said, "Oh wow, your ASVAB scores are really high. You could be a Ranger." And I was like, "Rangers jump out of airplanes, right?" And they said, "Yes." So I went across the hall and joined the Air Force. I literally asked them, "Am I going to have to jump out of airplanes?" And they said no. And then I said, "Okay." I really, really, really did not want to have to end up jumping out of airplanes. I do not like the idea of. The only way I will ever jump out of an airplane is if it's crashing. Working. Well, actually, it does. It actually does. Yes, it does. We became America because, and I don't know why you felt the need to include Hispanic in your in your language, but America became America by allowing immigrants into the country. Like, really, have you ever read a history book? The entire foundation of America is having immigrants come over. And the only difference between the way that the immigrants are coming over now and the way, like your grandfather or whomever came over is not the way they came over. The law changed, not the means. People used to just come over here. They didn't have to apply for a visa. Unless your ancestors only came over in the last 2 or 3 generations, they didn't apply for a visa. They got off a boat, they signed their name, and that was it. That was a joke. That was a joke. Sorry, that was a joke about the ASVAB scores being too high. Okay. Settlers. I don't know what they were settling or who they were, but they were immigrants. The settlers, the people that you're calling settlers, they immigrated. They came from another country to America. Do you think that they just like popped up here? Like, where do you not realize that we have German immigrants that were the pioneers? Do you not realize that we had Irish immigrants that were pioneers? Do you not know that we had Chinese people build our railroads, or that African people picked our cotton, not by their choice? Do you not know that Italian immigrants built the skyscrapers in New York City? Yes, the entire nation has an entire history of immigrants building it. If you don't know that, then your history teacher either shouldn't be teaching history or he's embarrassed right now, or she is. Oh, they were European immigrants. So they were immigrants. They were immigrants. Like, your racism here is evident. They were still immigrants. And you know what? People were saying the same things that you're saying right now about immigrants then. You know who was complained about immigrants? Benjamin Franklin was complaining about the Germans taking over Pennsylvania and how they would never assimilate and how they wouldn't learn our language. They would never learn English. Benjamin Franklin was a racist. I mean, like, you're just saying, this is just not a true thing. This is just not a true thing. And so I'm just not going to engage with you. I tried to engage with you, but once you start just saying racist, dishonest crap, I'm like, no more. You're not. We're done. Okay. Imperialists, LOL. Yes, that's the entire point. The only people here that are not immigrants or children of immigrants are American Indians, are the Native Americans, right? Everybody else is an immigrant. And you can even, if you really wanted to get technical, the Native Americans are immigrants too. When they walked over that, frozen bridge some million years ago or however long ago it was. Yeah, I notice how that is. Yeah, that's why I'm saying you're racist. Okay. No, I don't even know what that means. All right. I'm trying to. Immigrants move to an existing society. This is just nonsense. This is a made up distinction that doesn't exist. Things change over time. Whatever. Okay. If you are a racist, you are just saying you're a racist, even not knowing you're a racist does not mean you're not a racist. You're sitting there literally talking about Hispanic people. Like you are literally identifying a race of people as being inferior. So yes, that makes you a racist. That is like you don't get to say something overtly racist and then get all prickly that somebody called you a racist. You can't get much more racist than literally stating that a group of people is inferior than you. Sorry, like what is wrong with MAGAs? Why don't you have the courage of your convictions? If you're going to make a racist argument, then be proud of your racist argument. Stand up and say, I'm a racist. Hell, you can get rich off of being a racist these days. Haven't you seen the Cinnabon girl? She got $100,000 just for being a racist asshole. So you could just go ahead, declare your racism. Be proud of it. You'll get rich off it. I would read this out loud, but I'm a monetized channel, but I do feel your sympathy. Or feel your, I do have empathy for what you're saying. Trump is the great, I mean, I just evaluating from that statement, I know you have no concept of U.S. history. And you could not defend that situation. Like, if you were to write a college thesis defending that statement, you would fail. There's not an actual argument to be made for that. Like maybe you could defend something that said Trump is a good president, but I doubt you could do that. But that's a comparative statement. Like, why is Donald Trump actually better than Abraham Lincoln? What has he done to prove he's better than Abraham Lincoln? Other than right now, he's the current president. And so, and you've got your tight MAGA hat on. Son, Donald Trump do you want to know the real story about fake news? Let's talk about fake news and Donald Trump, because again, you do not seem to be educated on anything. The reason that the term fake news even exists is that in the 2016 election, Russia was paying a dude that was literally, and this is not hyperbolic, this actually happened, he invented newspapers, all right? And he would make up stories about Hillary Clinton from whole cloth, not like stretching things, not taking real things and skewing them, like making stuff up out of full cloth, just absolutely making them up. And he would made up these these newspaper sites, and he would write these newspaper articles with this totally made up stuff about Hillary Clinton and share them on Facebook. And then Russia would use its little algorithms that it got from the Trump campaign to get people to share these fake made up stories. And that is what fake news actually means. It means fake stuff presented as news. It does not mean news you disagree with. So if you're going to talk about Trump calling out fake news, Trump has never, ever called out fake news. Trump exists as president directly as a result of fake news. You didn't know that, did you? I am lacking understanding here. So talking about Hispanics as inferior is racist. Yes. Calling Hispanics lazy and leechers, that is racist. So that girl was told by a Muslim that she needs to cover up. So, I mean, so that doesn't mean that she has to say I'm a racist literally and call him the N-word. I never saw that part. I don't know if that's real or not. I don't know if that's valid. But even if it is, even if he said that she needs to cover up, she could have just ignored it, given him his Cinnabon, said, had a nice day, and move along. She didn't have to react that way. She chose to react that way. It doesn't excuse her. Okay, rich but not laid. All right. I am lacking. Okay, so so we're back there. Good question. I don't know what the question was. All the presidents before him would let fake news. Okay, there was no fake news before him. There was no such thing as fake news before him. Fake news, again, was something that was invented to get him to be president. No. Racism is making a claim about a group of people based on their race being inferior. Popcorn is popping now. Get ready. Okay, BBC fake actual news. No, BBB is not fake actual news. How can you have fake actual news? All right, again, you seem to think that facts that you don't like to hear are fake. But no, sorry, little buddy, facts are facts, even if they hurt your little feelings. All right, take your little feeling boo-boo and run along. Liar. Okay, you said it, dude. You majored. I don't even know what that means. No, he didn't. They did not doctor his speech with. They edited out portions of his speech, which of course you're going to do. Do you think that they were going to show the entire 45-minute speech? That claim is just so dumb. Do you think that Fox News never edits anything from him? Like the idea that in a documentary, you're not going to have edited speeches is just dumb. And it's not fake. He actually said the words they showed him saying. It's not like they had some AI thing making him say things that he didn't say. He said the word peacefully one time in that speech. For those that don't know, BBC ran a documentary on the whole thing, and they edited his speech And somehow he thinks that means that they made it look like he said something he didn't say or whatever. And there was this big stink about it. But they didn't actually do anything wrong. Like they didn't make it look like he was saying something he didn't say. And of course they're going to edit out portions of the speech. They think they're going to show, like, what's the point of do you think they were just going to show the entire 45-minute speech? What country are you talking? I don't know if you're talking to me or somebody else. I'm not lying, and I'm in America. Even a reporter, he will call them out as lies. Yes, he will lie about a reporter. That doesn't mean he's got courage. It means he has either. So, for instance, like he just lit into this reporter that had the audacity to ask him about whether or not he was going to release these videos, like he said, and he's accused the reporter of lying, even though he actually had said before that he was going to release the videos. So he gets angry and yells at reporters and lies to reporters who ask him honest questions. That does not make him like the champion of integrity. It makes him a liar. So what if I talk about Hispanics disappear? This is just a dumb thing. So yeah, so and then we get to TDS meds. Just a bunch of stupid stuff. Okay, no fake news before him. I am questioning the difference between. You're not actually questioning the difference between propaganda and fake news. What you're doing is you're trying to make it so that everything you don't agree with is wrong. Propaganda and fake news are different things. Propaganda is sensationalized news that uses certain things that are based in facts to create an emotional response and hyperbolizes certain things, such as Fox News. Fox News does a lot of propaganda. Fake news, as I was saying, is just completely made up. Fake news was literal fake news. They were stories that were made up by a guy in his basement. They have no basis in reality. Propaganda is something like, there's this one thing and we're going to blow that out of proportion. Democrats face. Yeah. You're the guy on my website getting all angry, or on my podcast. This guy, Oh yeah. As though MAGAs are just beacons of tolerance. Like they're so patient and understanding and ready to have an honest conversation while they're doing stuff like this. Like, dude, I'm trying to have a conversation with you guys. I'm trying to have an honest conversation, but all I get is stuff like this. Like, do you have anything intelligent to say, or do you just have yells to yell? Or Bubba Stumpstein. I don't even know what that means. I don't know what Bubba Stumpstein means. Is that something to do with Jill Stein? I don't know. Jesus calls us to meet him and serve him by being servants to the poor, the sick, the disenfranchised, and the imprisoned. If you do this, you will be saved and go to heaven. Make Kamala sober again. The whole thing that, like, this is just a made up thing by the right wing that she's, like, she laughs and therefore she must drink. Like, it's such a weird thing. The whole Kamala Harris has a drinking, like, nobody, like, only, like, that's, I don't, it's just weird. Won't get that. At least I don't. What is that? What are the? I don't speak MAGA. I'm not fluent and crazy. Are you talking about the January 6th investigate. I don't know what Diddy crate means. I don't know what the Frankenstein Diddy crate. That's just like, I can't even keep up with all your insanity. I dropped a dime on 15 illegals. Okay. I somehow doubt that you did, because I'm pretty sure anybody who's here undocumented is just like people that are here that are legally. That I don't think you actually even know 15 people in real life. Like, I think you are probably such an odious person that even your own, like, you bought a cat and it ran away. Like, nobody likes you. You can't even get a pet. Maybe you can get a pet lizard. Like, do you have iguana? Maybe an iguana would be able to tolerate you. Illegal is illegal. Right. So like 38 felonies, for instance. Is illegal when Donald Trump is committing crimes? From Stump, I don't know what you're going on about Stump Stein all about. I've never mentioned Jill Stein at all. Okay. Well, let's just remove this since we're done with what is about legal. Okay. Yeah. What is it about legal you don't understand? Did Donald Trump commit felonies or not? Was he convicted of felonies or not? Is committing a felony legal or not? What is it about illegal that you don't understand? Like, what I don't think is illegal, what I do know about illegal that you apparently don't know, is that it's an adjective and not a noun. People are not illegal. People can do illegal things, and there are more illegal things that people can do than cross the border illegally. But you want to like take one thing that's illegal and morph that into like, that is so illegal that it is the one thing that we can take and we can call somebody illegal because they did it. Even, you know, worse than murder. You don't call murderers illegals. But you're defending murderers. They're out there murdering people on the high seas. And, you know, like, you point out that what they're doing is illegal. You point to the actual laws that they're breaking, but somehow that illegal doesn't bother you. The only illegal that bothers you is brown people crossing the border. German people coming over here and overstaying their visa, they're not illegal. I remember back when Obama was president, there was a German family that overstayed their visa and they were going to get deported. And they claimed asylum because if they went back, their kids would have to go to school. Because Germany has a law that you have to send your kids to school. All right. And they wanted to homeschool their kids. There's no law in Germany that says you can't homeschool your kids. It just says you have to send your kids to state school. And they didn't want to go because of that. And there was this right-wing push to get them asylum. And the family ended up getting asylum. That family was not illegal because they were white. What is it about illegal you don't understand, Paul? Other than the entire context of what the word means and what part of speech it is. I'm not going to get into that. The central bank doesn't control Republicans and Democrats. This is like that whole central bank conspiracy wacko nonsense is like, it's not even entertaining. Okay. President Trump, please come save Minnesota. Yeah, sure. Most people in Minnesota disagree with you. That's why they voted for Walz. The BBD, they edited them together. Yeah. No, and they did not make him appear to say something he did not say. They absolutely did not do that. He said everything that he said in the video. They did not make him say seemed to say something he didn't say. That's a lie. Brad would have arrested Anne Frank. You think Brad would have been one of the SS troops? No, they didn't apologize. That is a mischaracterization of what happened. Okay, it's set like the person defending everything that Trump says with this like knee-jerk masturbatory infection is the one that thinks I have TDS. Dude, if you ejaculate when you see Trump, you might be the one with TDS. I don't know what who's Stump? I don't even know who Stump is. Is Stump Trump? What is it about due process and treasonous MAGA? Well, okay. That's a little R-rated for my channel. Sorry, yeah, I'm not going to read profanity-laced things because I'm monetized and I don't want to get knocked by YouTube. They're stealing our taxpayer. Yes, they're eating rats? I thought they were just eating cats. Don't comprehend. I don't know what that means. Fake news is like when Joe Budden says, no, that's not fake news. It's actually true. The wheel is spinning, but the hamster is long unveiled. MAGA is very unstable, emotional, and irrational. They are. Fun facts, Trump deep fried. That's such a, you're so weird. Like, do you think that you just like throwing random words together on me or something? So based on your opinion, North Korea uses fake. No, I'm saying fake news uses propaganda. I am saying that fake news has a very specific meaning in this context. Fake news was there was a guy that made up news stories and printed them out and had a fake web page that he used them. That is the actual what fake news, that's where the word was coined. That's where it comes from. Propaganda exists. Are you listening? Like, I feel like you're not hearing the words that are coming out of my mouth. They have meaning. What about, I don't, okay. No Bill Clinton and Epstein? I don't know. If Bill Clinton raped girls, he should go to prison. Central current Americans would have killed Jesus had he come back. Well, they certainly don't like brown people or immigrants. And he wasn't, Jesus wasn't born in America. He hasn't got a passport. He wouldn't be able to apply for a visa because he doesn't have a bachelor's degree. So when Jesus comes back, when Jesus comes back, will he be allowed in America? Only a drunk fool would. What about the people that didn't vote for her? A damn shame, really. I don't know what that means. I have Biden. Biden actually said, I present to you that's just, I used to smoke weed with Kamala in high school. Okay. They're just racist. Kamala never worked at McDonald's. That was such a weird thing. I worked at McDonald's and I'm a couple of years younger than Kamala. I worked at McDonald's in 1984. Do you think that there's a record of me working at McDonald's in 1984? Like, it's so weird how you're like, oh, well, I voted for an adjudicated rapist that was convicted of all these felonies that stole classified documents and tried to overthrow the country. but Kamala Harris couldn't prove she worked at McDonald's. Like, it's so weird. Laughing lion. I don't, this, you know, any Somalis in here? Somalians? It makes me sad what he did with that. Looking as anything. No, they weren't actually made up felonies. Like they people act like they, you know, that the exact same felony is prosecuted like 1,000 times a year in New York City. They weren't made up. This whole notion that they were made up or unique or something like that. No, it's been like charged and prosecuted like 30,000 times in the last 10 years. I don't know what you think Tim Walz is going to jail for. Stein is a Russian asset. Yeah, they're still not fabricated. These 34 felonies were presented to a grand jury, and then there was a jury trial where 12 people found him guilty of those, and then the judge sentenced him. Well, he didn't end up sentencing him yet, but he was convicted of 34 felonies. They all, you're like, or however many it was, he was convicted of them. He is a felon. He was convicted of felonies. The same exact judicial system that puts all the black people in jail that you like to complain about worked for him. Only he got much more benefit of the doubt than most people. And he committed other crimes that weren't fake. He stole government documents. He stole national security documents. He tried to overthrow the country. Those are things that happened. Those aren't liberal talking points or whatever. Those are things that he actually did. Have you ever figured the difference between women and little girls? Little girls have tits, or little girls don't have their tits yet. As soon as you get tits, you're a woman as far as MAGA is concerned. Like if you're 14 and you got tits early, or 13 or 12 or whatever. I don't know when is early, maybe 12. But once you got boobs, you're a woman. If you're old enough to bleed, you're old enough to breed. That's the MAGA way. A lot of Democrats have felonies. Yeah, I didn't vote for the liberals that have felonies. That's the difference. I'm not like saying that Republicans are the only ones that commit crimes. I'm not the one that pardoned the Democrat that was committing felonies. Donald Trump is. Okay. Trump teabags Democrats. Ew! That is a mental picture I do not need. The long, saggy old man nuts with tan spray all over him. All charges on Trump were not dropped. First of all, the convictions are there. Sentencing was delayed. The cases, the cases against him for the national documents and the attempt to overthrow the government can still be had, but not while he's president. So the prosecution was stayed until after he's not president anymore. But regardless of that, it doesn't mean he didn't do those things. Like people are up in here blaming Biden and Harris and Tim Walz of things that they haven't even been charged with. So But there's like evidence. There's pictures of classified documents sitting on a public stage and video of him moving classified documents around after he said he didn't have them in a signed statement. There's like, some of those things he hasn't been convicted of, but that doesn't mean he didn't do them. This guy is a dang whiner. Okay. If Trump is so bad, why did he get reelected? Because stupid people voted for him. I can't account for stupid people. I ask you the same question. Why are you so stupid that you would vote for a man that is so bad? I'm not a boomer. I'm Gen X. Thank you. Yeah, I like my ice melted. Democrats are better immigrants, and migrants are better. I think better than MAGAs. Not illegal drug deals are. Don't know what that means. Yes, they are. I don't know what they are means. Well, I think he's just. He's actually the one pardoning. He pardoned Juan Orlando Hernandez. He pardoned the CEO of Binance, which Hernandez trafficked fentanyl. Trafficked cocaine for the Sinaloa cartel. The CEO of Binance laundered money for the Sinaloa cartel. He is literally actually playing with the bleeping cartels. Like, he actually is playing with the Sinaloa cartel. So yes, you can't say he's not playing with the cartels. He is. He's literally playing with them. Okay. Russia elected number 47. Some people say that Donald Trump is the worst president in American history, and I disagree with that because I think he's the two worst presidents in American history. Okay. I have a feeling that Lord whatever here wasn't going to vote for Harris regardless of what her speech was. Like, you're literally making up fake arguments. No, I'm not. The guy literally said Hispanics. All right, you don't get to say I am making stuff up literally when I am literally quoting the dude. I am not making up fake arguments. And by the way, how do you make up fake arguments? Fake news is fake arguments. And this is part of the problem with the whole, I didn't say race. This is, if you want to talk about this honestly, there were people that never said race when they were defending Jim Crow laws. They're like, I don't mind if black people vote. I just think they should do it legally. Right? The law itself is inherently racist in that it has a racist impact. And the enforcement of the law has a racist impact. You're talking about, on the one hand, I'm not against, I just think that they should do it the right way. And then you're defending people being apprehended based on their race and being deported based on their race, even if they're citizens. I know a lot of people in Minnesota. I have family in Minnesota. Minnesota is not a big fan of MAGA. I'm just like, if you're in Minnesota, you must be rural Minnesota, or else you're just some MAGA that has leaped on this whole, by Donald Trump's latest thing is to hate on Minnesota and Tim Walz, because Tim Walz pointed out he's weird. The cartels fund made up. No, they were legal. And okay. Guy looks like he steals gumballs. I don't even know what that means. Mm-hmm. That's my point. And who are those people? Does that include German people that overstay their welcome or overstay their tourist visa? Like, why is it that that crime is the one crime, and it's not even a crime, it's a civil offense? Why is it that that is the one that involves the disclaimer? Why is it only people that committed a civil offense of crossing the border illegally are called illegal? Like, if you want to say they did something illegal and that's why we're calling them illegal, why is that the only thing that qualifies somebody as illegal? Why is it that being convicted of felonies doesn't make you an illegal, but crossing a border illegally and committing a civil offense does? Like, you won't answer that question because you're a gutless little MAGA. Okay, gonna be pretty hard to win another. Again, there have only been 11 people in the last 45 years who are illegal, who are here illegally, who have been convicted of voting in an election. This is just another, and see, this is actually one of the reasons I'm pointing out it's racist, because you're using a kind of a scapegoating boogeyman argument where you're trying to make it sound like, oh, all these brown people are the reason that you have such a pathetic life and why nobody loves you, and even your little pet iguana wants to escape. Okay. Okay, yeah, now we're into the the slurs. Once you start using that word and you can't actually defend your argument, do you realize what you're saying is that I am, like mentally handicapped and you still can't win an argument with me? So what does that say about you? That you are so stupid you can't even counter what I am saying, and I have, like supposedly this mental deficiency. Winning baby, no more weird transform. Okay, yes, they did. I don't know what tampon Tim. So the tampon Tim thing. Like, do you you guys don't even know what you're talking about? You just like to throw stuff out. The tampon thing did not require tampons to be in men's bathrooms. All it did is say all female students should have access to tampons. Sometimes in some of these small states, or in some of these small schools, when you have like a basketball game and you have a dressing room, they don't have like two women's dressing rooms, one for home, one for visitor. You have like a homeroom and you have the women's room and the men's room, the men's locker room and the women's locker room. What they would have is they would have tampons in the men's locker room because the girls' team from the other school would use that when they were, dressing. And so they would put tampons in the men's dressing room so that those women could have access to it. But, go ahead with your ignorant, like little anti-trans, like, oh, tampon Tim stupidity, and just prove to the world that you're an ignorant moron that doesn't care about facts. You just care about being able to hate. I have no idea what that is. You can look it up, dog. Why did SCOTUS approve of I do not know. And this is one of the things, like the guy that I was talking to earlier about, he was talking about judicial activism. I mean, technically, they didn't approve of racial profiling. If you really want to break it down, they said that race could be used as a part of it. Um, like like if you put it together, like if they're Hispanic people and they're in the Home Depot parking lot in this place where undocumented people are known to hang out and look for work, and they're speaking Spanish, you could kind of use the um, combination of factors to that's enough to give you probable cause to ask them for their papers. But they're using this to, like, just Hispanic people driving by, they're pulling over. So you could say, and then Kavanaugh's like, oh well, there's always it's always easy enough to prove if they're really here legally, and they show their actual ID card that is supposed to their verified ID or whatever, and that's not enough for them. So it's not, even the Supreme Court hasn't officially said racial profiling is, but their interpretation has been strained even beyond what was already a bad decision. And so yeah, I mean, racial profiling is actually going on. Okay, I'm done talking about the BBC thing. Why does this Minnesota it doesn't? I don't. I am not sure what the apology is for. They are eating the cats and dogs, I suppose. I think my eyes. Bye. Have a nice day. You just seem like you were at least trying to be a pleasant person. I hope I didn't like come across as mean to you. You were asking the question about the racial profiling, so I was just answering it. There are a lot, but you know what? This is a paid account, so all they do when they do this stuff is make me money. So, whatever. I get money out of it. Leave your cult. This guy can't read for bleep. I'm not sure what that means. Block. Okay. I don't know if you're blocking me or somebody else. He is doing what he is modeling. He sounds like the Cheeto Hitler. Paul again. Save our children from. Okay, you're just like, this is like when they get really really upset and they just kind of get reduced down to just screaming incoherent like stuff about LGBTQ people, they've really lost. Just like you do, he said in all caps. Feminized. Oh boy, that's like a I don't. Oh, this guy likes to use Joe Bubbins. Yeah, Joe Biden fell off his bike. I would love to see Donald Trump ride a bike. Like your, I like your little emoji or your little profile pic. The soy got to him, yeah. Because I don't even like soy. I don't eat soybeans. I don't eat tofu. I don't eat soy milk. I don't know why like conservatives get this idea that like all liberals like drink soy milk and have blue hair or something. No, my wife does not sleep with my best friend. He might be illiterate or just chooses to not read is a possibility too. But he is clearly not well informed. Why did God make Tim Waltz he didn't. And honestly, using that word tells what kind of person you are. Like, you're a really, really crappy person if you use that word. Like, just a really horrible person. I would love for you to go and talk to, just go to any parent that has a child with Down syndrome and tell them that use that word to describe their child and see how hard you get punched. You're a disgusting human being if you use that word. And I include the president. That is a horrible, horrible word. That to me is just like one of probably the second ugliest word in the English language. It's just one new talking point from memory or insult. It's what's middle. They do. They just. I actually, a lot of this stuff is middle school is too advanced for them. It's like first grade insults. And if Trump raped girls, uh, if Trump raped girls, he should be in prison too. I mean, to me, like, I don't understand why the Epstein thing is like a choice. I will say this proudly and completely: anybody in the Epstein files that is shown to rape girls should be in prison. I don't care if it's Bill Clinton. I don't care if it's Barack Obama. I don't care if it's Joe Biden. I don't care if it's Donald Trump. I don't care if it's Dr. Seuss. I don't care who it is. Anybody in that is shown to rape little girls belongs in prison. Full stop. End of story. Why is there a debate? Yeah, they are, and should he also be imprisoned? Who? Again, are we talking about anybody that rapes little girls should be in prison? I don't care if Jesus Christ was in the files. I want him in prison for raping kids. Tell me this. Let me just put it this way. Does anybody on here think that if anybody in the Epstein files is shown to have raped little girls, regardless of who it is, that they shouldn't be in prison for it? Like, is there anybody that you're okay with raping little girls? Because if nobody is okay with people raping little girls, or little boys for that matter, then we don't need to talk about, who's okay with it. We don't like illegal. Yeah, and you don't know what you're talking about again. Like, you don't know the difference between illegal immigrants and legal immigrants, and you don't know the difference. Like, do you think that did you know that like 98% of the population of the world can't migrate here legally? And most of them are people of color. Most people of color cannot come here legally. So you talk about legal immigration. You were probably fine with black people voting as long as they did it legally under Jim Crow too. Like, you can hide your racism behind laws that have racist implementation. Do you get that? I don't kiss my brother, but I do kiss my wife with this mouth. He's an old man. I'm 58. Is that? Oh, you're talking about Joe? I don't know who you're talking. Yeah, if Donald Trump can't remember what he said 5 days ago, he has dementia, or he certainly does not have the cognitive ability to continue serving as president, or he's a liar. Which, this is actually funny. Yeah, but you don't know anything about the legal immigration process. I don't have a problem with black people voting as long as they do it legally. Jim Crow. That's what they said during Jim Crow. Do you get that? You get the difference? Everyone with Jesus in their heart is harboring an illegal alien. That's a good line. I'm gay. Hi, gay. I worked in 1991. They did, Joe. I agree. I mean, I was really, after that debate performance, I had to, but I think that, I don't know. I to be honest, that was my concern in 2020. I could see the whole thing coming. If Joe Biden wins, then in 2024, he's going to be in his early 80s and his age is going to become an issue. And so in 2020, I was really worried about Joe Biden winning, which ironically is why I wanted Kamala Harris to win in 2020. None of that is true. I don't know none of what is true. I don't know if you're talking to me or somebody else. I've been sitting here quiet. These people are some of the dumbest chat I have ever run into. Hey, Brett, good to see you. Always nice to have a friendly voice. You're actually, I really like your comments. You talking about Hillary? I don't know what. Our country is stable. The only one destabilizing our country is Donald Trump. And actually, did you know mass deportations are going to do far, far more damage to the country than you realize? Like, there's a Wharton study. I'm not just talking about what my opinion is. Look it up. There is a Wharton study. It's going to it's going to destroy our economy. Like the idea of mass deportations, you're running victory laps around it, but you're running victory laps around an L. It's devastating, the consequences of mass deportation. It's going to drop the GDP like 6% over 10 years. It's going to cause inflation to go up because when we don't have strawberries, when we have fewer strawberries, you know what happens? Strawberries get more expensive. And when we don't have people to pick strawberries, we have fewer strawberries. It's going to cause unemployment to go up because when you lose the people that are picking the strawberries, you lose the entire strawberry industry. All the people that are driving strawberry trucks and that work in the strawberry plant that packages strawberries. I mean, I'm just using strawberries as an illustrative example, but all of that, like every 500,000 undocumented people we deport actually cost 44,000 American jobs. Did you know that? You didn't know that because you're not curious and you don't look things up. You just regurgitate Republican talking points. Look it up. Look up mass deportations, Wharton study, and see what they say. If you like, and Wharton, I'm using Wharton deliberately because that is apparently the one place that you're willing to take their word for because Trump went there. Even if he never actually went, like he allegedly graduated from there, but so no, they did not take one conviction and turn it into 34. They charged him with 34 counts of the same crime. Every time he wrote a check, he committed the same crime. Regardless, he's a felon. He committed the felony 34 times. Yeah, and then we get the couch fornicator. So charged, prosecuted, and now I don't think the felony is actually up for appeal, and it doesn't matter. He's still convicted. Like he still did it. Like you're ready to like deport people that you said are illegal without a trial, without due process. He's had due process. He's been to, like, this actually happened. He actually committed this actual crime. And somehow it's like that doesn't count because the appeals process hasn't been exhausted yet. There's all kinds of people that did it in prison that have appeals out. Yes, right. That's what I'm saying. 34 checks. Each one was a felony. Each one was a conscious crime. And you know, like the thing about this they don't talk about is that they literally had receipts. Like they drew up the plan on an actual receipt from the bank that had the money transfer on it. Like you do not get more receipts than a literal, actual, physical receipt that has the plan for the crime written up on it and signed by the people that agreed to commit the crime. I mean, it's like that level of stupid is running our country. He has zero. There were underlying cases that, you know, like then we're back to the tard word, but no, there were underlying cases. The problem is that you seem to have is that there was no conviction of an underlying crime. The crime he committed was that he did this to hide an underlying crime. There's no need to prove that underlying crime to prove he was trying to hide an underlying crime. And even his own defense lawyer said that. His defense lawyer tried to bring this up to the jury about there no underlying crime. And the judge said, that's not how it works. You know that. And the defense lawyer said, you're right, and then dropped it. Like, you don't have to prove the underlying crime. Don't believe all the Fox News legal analysts that have told you otherwise. You don't need to prove the underlying. You don't need to be convicted of an underlying crime. You just need to prove they were trying to hide one. That the motivation was to hide one. I can hardly wait until he's out of office. You notice that they wanted to talk to Jack Smith, and Jack's like, okay, yeah, can we do it in public? And they're like, oh, no, we can't have that. They don't want Jack Smith to say what Jack Smith knows. They're the ones suing to block his report. Tim wants, this whole thing with the Tim Walz, and like, this is just, it's not even worth entertaining. He did not send yes, he did send the 34 checks. I mean, he literally did. Wrong. Okay, that's a good word. Good argument. They're fake convictions. They are not fake. And no one's actually, yes. Again, this gets prosecuted all the time, like 1,000 times a year. And he's also, I don't know what what is a chomo? I don't know. All right, who's he? I think you're talking about Trump being a chomo, but I don't know what a chomo is. He had every right to take those documents. No, he didn't. Trump is guilty of treason right in front of you people's faces, and knows nothing about it. Joe is a criminal. Okay. Like, let's just say, for argument's sake, that Joe Biden is a criminal. Joe Biden has not been accused of any crimes. He has not been charged with any crimes. There hasn't been a grand jury that has said he's committed any crimes. He hasn't had a trial for those crimes, and he hasn't had a jury say, yes, he did those crimes. So, based on what am I supposed to say Joe Biden is the criminal and Trump isn't? Like, it was all innocent until proven guilty, until he was proven guilty. Now it's, oh, well, he was proven guilty, but it doesn't matter because it was fake. Okay. No, it was not debunked that it was never debunked that he stole government. That's just not true. Zero proof there's zero proof he told the person to move the money. I don't know what you're talking about, move the money. You're an idiot. Okay, at least you used the apostrophe, so if you're talking to me, you're like better than 95% of MAGAs, because you actually know the difference between your and your. Ooh, I don't know what that's from. Oh, that's like we're like half an hour behind in the. Okay. If you don't want people voting Trump, you clowns shouldn't have shoehorned in. Who do you think shoehorned in Kamala? What do you mean by you people? Okay. I'm just going to go. We're like, Biden isn't. No, he never said Biden isn't mentally fit to stand trial. People need to like read. and understand what they're reading. What he said is that if he stood trial someday for the charges, when she couldn't even prove, the whole thing was when he was interviewing Biden, there was, or when somebody else had interviewed Biden, he had talked about some documents that were classified that he had, and he thought, oh, I need to get those back. I need to, get those out of here, because he didn't still have them, and so he talked about how they were downstairs. Then when they searched his house, because he asked them to, remember, he asked them to search his house, and they found those documents in the garage. It was downstairs from his office in his new house when she had moved into since then. So it wasn't even the same house. So he might not have been talking about the same house, much less the same documents in the same downstairs. So in order to actually prosecute him for a crime, he would have to be shown to knowingly be hiding these classified documents. And what the special counsel was saying is that in 5 years, when he's like in his mid-80s, in a trial, is a jury going to believe that A, they're the same documents, and B, that what he had said before about them being downstairs, that he actually remembered them later when he said he didn't have any. Like, that he could have forgotten that he said that. Like, people have things slip their mind all the time. So when he was taught, if you look and read the report, I read the report. You obviously did not. That's what he was referring to. He was not saying that Joe Biden would be too incompetent to stand trial. That's such a dishonest representation of what it said. It said a jury might not believe that he remembered what that particular sentence 7 years later. Which is a fair thing to say, right? Like, do you remember every sentence you said 7 years ago? And he's got to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that's what he meant. Okay. I don't know what the propaganda newspaper. What's a woman? Okay, so we're back to what's a woman, you people equals non-racist, non-sexist Democrat. And yeah. In other words, just people that aren't assholes. Read the propaganda news. I don't know what propaganda newspaper. Lord Alcatraz, that's creepy. I don't know what that's talking. Sorry, I've just got like way too many comments to keep up with here. Tom, we're laughing stock now because of Trump. The whole world sees it. Hey, you want to hear a pun? Here's a pun for you since we're on the pun show. What do you get when you boil a funny bone? A laughing stock. Okay. Get it? Laughing stock. You do realize that there are more than two genders, right? There are. I mean, and they're like, oh, it's all scientific. Science, biology says there are only two genders. No, that's not actually what biology says. Like MAGAs are really good at digging into a position of ignorance and then claiming that they're the ones that are informed because they are so dug into their ignorance. He's keeping all the fentanyl out that's killing our kids. How is he keeping the fentanyl out? Did you know that Joe Biden reduced fentanyl overdose by 25%? And how's closing the border keeping all the fentanyl out? Like, honestly, what do you think that means? Fentanyl was not being smuggled over by illegal immigrants. Fentanyl was being smuggled over by American citizens and still is. Do you think that people aren't getting access to fentanyl now? When you type this and these words go through your brain, Do they go through the logical part of it at all? Do you process the thought that you are communicating before you communicate it? You actually believe that nobody's getting any more fentanyl. You think it's not coming over the border anymore. Do you think that blowing up boats that don't have fentanyl on it somehow solves the fentanyl crisis? You need to go buy some. He does. It's like some of them, like some of these comments I just scroll over because it's just the same nonsense over and over. That's right. Scroll on. You can't answer who shoehorn because it's irrelevant. The entire process is completely irrelevant. Joe Biden stepped down, right? Joe Biden resigned. There was not time to have a primary. So the delegates that had been pledged to Biden said that they would vote for Harris. It's that simple. There's not like some giant conspiracy behind it. It was the most reasonable thing since she was the vice president. She didn't even have time to put together a presidential campaign, much less to like suddenly have a primary. Like this whole thing, why wasn't there a primary? It's just dumb because there is no feasible way to have a primary. It is. It's like chromosomes exist, people. Okay. Typing on his grandma's Vista computer. So we're just getting in now. Now we're just in a full-blown caps lock insults. I love how these people can't even come. Yeah, right. Like I would love to like come up, like put on the screen an original insult, but they don't know how to think originally. It's like they're just use the same stupid things, or they'll like take something that applies to MAGAs and then try to make it look like it applies to liberals. And it's like it's just like a cell phone because it's like, oh, that's what a liberal told you, and then you looked it up, and now you're trying to flip it around. Like one of the biggest MAGA things is like the "I know you are, but what am I?" or "I'm made of rubber, you're made of glue." Like this is like when I say this is the guy that said that they're like middle school. This is what I mean. It's actually like first, second grade. Because everything comes down to either using an R word or some kind of slur. I'm made of rubber, you're made of glue, or I know you are, but what am I? Okay. Paul, take your MAGA meds. You're typing in caps again. Or just, the typing and just the general demented screaming. Debating MAGA was never easy for obvious reasons, but it's getting harder. The ones still be. I think he means the ones that still are, because the ones supporting him still are the most deranged, brainwashed, stupid, or they're just there's no opening for thought to come in. Like it's like I wish I could figure out how to make somebody like actually think, like to crack, like if you could just crack and get a little bit of water in there, you know. So yeah, I'm just scrolling past Paul's yelling. He's just full on caps lock shrieking now. I bet this is how you treat your wife, isn't it? Like when she's right and you're wrong. Or if you have one. I guess a Democrat having. No, that's why he asked them to come, and he didn't know he had them. He asked the FBI to come and look for them at his house. They found them. He gave them back. He did not refuse court orders and sign papers saying that he had given them back when he was willfully hiding them. The idea that what Joe Biden did is in somehow on any level the same thing as what Donald Trump is just ignorant. It's like you either don't know the facts behind the Biden thing or you don't know the facts behind the Trump thing. So when I say it's either ignorant or it's dishonest. Either you don't know that they are completely different, incomparable things, and you honestly don't know it, or you do know it and you're saying it anyway. So you're either ignorant or you're a liar. And I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt of thinking you're ignorant. So I'm saying, please look up the difference. Go on Grok or whatever your favorite AI is and ask, is there a difference between the classified documents Trump had and the classified documents that Biden had and how they responded? Like, go and look it up, like actually read, because nothing I say is going to change your mind. And I'm just wondering, is your mind open to the possibility that they are different and that what I'm saying is true? Do you care about reality at all? Democrats took our money. No, they didn't. That's just a weird thing. Like, sometimes you guys just go into weird nonsense stuff. Democrats took our money. Like, what does that even mean? You know who took all your money? You know, Donald Trump's tariffs literally take your money. He has, the tariffs are a regressive tax. Yes. Amen. Time to get a volunteer moderator. So, do we have anything? No, that. There is no study to replicate in terms of trans people. It's like that is such a weird argument. There's no study that they did. It's biology, dude. It's how chromosomes work. Okay. Pardoning a drug smuggler is, yeah. Especially like Juan Orlando Hernandez is one of the top people that was prosecuted ever on literal drug smuggling, right? Like he was helping traffic drugs. And then you got the deal that he worked out with El Chapo's kid to bring over 17 family members and give them government protection. Like actual government people that need government protection. He's pulled it away from, but he's giving them to El Chapo's kid. Sure, I don't know if you're talking about I know there's a rumor about him transitioning to trans. I don't think that, or there's like this fake meme running around. I don't think that Charlie Kirk was open-minded enough to be trans. He was literally lying about trans people when he got shot. Imagine if Harris was there. Oh my God, I don't know where there is, but other countries are laughing at us right now. Do you think that other countries like are wowed by Donald Trump? The only way they're wowed by him is they're like, wow, I didn't believe somebody could be that stupid. This guy is a raging douchebag. Thank you. I thought Kirk was transitioning to Butthead from Beavis and Butthead. That might be true. But what about Eric and Don Jr. then? Who and with Eric and Don, who is Beavis and who is Butthead? I never figured that out. Yes, fun. It does have the largest oil reserve in the world. And another fun fact about Venezuela, they don't produce any cocaine or fentanyl. And most of the cocaine they traffic, it is a trafficking hub, but most of that goes to Europe or Caribbean islands or Africa. It's like most of it doesn't even come to the United States. Most of what they do traffic. That's not true. It's not man-made. It's lab-made. I don't know what you're talking about, or if you're talking to me or one of the other comments. Fentanyl is man-made, and the chemicals are imported primarily from China, but they're smuggled in through the southern border, through legal ports of entry by American citizens, predominantly. Their thoughts are generated by Fox. Okay. They do have fentanyl. Okay. You must know things that Border Patrol doesn't. No, because I'm watching something stupid. That's on you. How's anybody ever? I don't know. Why are you here then? The slackers will take up the slack. They should be in jail. Okay. Okay. Biden started getting it down until the. I don't know what that means. So just we never had open borders. Well, actually, we did have open borders. You know who liked open borders? The founding fathers. That's why our borders were open until like 1887 or something like that. And even then, it was just Chinese people. We had open borders, but we haven't had open borders under Biden. We had a border patrol. We had ICE agents. We had people being deported. Like this idea that there were open borders is just a fake talking point that Republicans like to use. That Donald Trump that Trump made up the phrase and then MAGAs just repeat it because it's easier than learning. They are the ones. No, but they're not. According to the Border Patrol, according to DEA, like there's nobody that actually says what you're saying that knows what they're talking about. Okay. I'm a veteran and I certainly don't like him. Yes, I'm a guy named Kelly. Gee, I have a name. I have a gender neutral name. He was forced to resign. Yeah, I think you're talking about Biden. He didn't actually resign. He just withdrew from the 2024 election. Stop listening to CNN. I don't know what CNN fake news has to do with anything. Resign. Yeah. There was not time to have a primary. There was barely, she didn't even really have time to put together a campaign. Sorry, I'm. Okay, you can just like make these declarations as though they are based in anything other than your very hollow, empty-headed opinion, but that does not make them true. Like there's no facts you have to back any of this up. You're just saying things belligerently. So I should probably read these because some people download the podcast. and paste in the same trash that he does on the other live streams. They're actually in the same order. Another Somalian MAGA account. Oh wow! So this guy just pastes the same thing in different live podcasts. Yeah, Paul is very, very angry and very, very not well read. Okay. Did you not know that's how our elections work? That's how I don't know what you're talking about. Uh it's funny if you listen to Democrats, they say. Well, in the amount of so it's funny because if you listen to the Democrats, they said she ran a perfect election. How is that possible if you're saying that she didn't have time for run an election? I think that you are taking a few people's review and not the entire thing, and she didn't have enough time to put together an entire campaign. I mean, like this is just like taking some unspecified random person's opinion about one thing does not disprove like the space-time continuum. You're welcome. Joe Biden literally got anyway. Joe Biden did not get salty over it and start throwing shade at Kamala. Democrats won't see the White House for a while. They have a bunch of idiots. They're now in Congress. You guys have a couch fornicator as vice president. Like this, you guys are declaring way too much victory for a guy that won with a plurality of the votes, and for a party that has not won the majority of the votes since 1988. Or I'm sorry, only one time since 1988. And you probably don't know the difference between majority and plurality. So I'll let you look it up and see if you can learn something. Okay. You don't think 20 million illegal immigrants is... I don't think that there are 20 million illegal immigrants here. All right. I'm not going to comment on that one. We just, for if you're listening to this, this one person is very, very engaged in denying the existence of trans people. And there's like a internal comment we're waging where he's getting his butt kicked and not very happy about it. Okay, he has a pet computer. I don't know who has a pet computer. Does JD Vance have a pet computer? Maggots don't understand Trump derangements. Syndrome perfectly describes them. Didn't it start off that TDS was originally made, like whoever coined the phrase initially, it was Trump derangement syndrome is like you believe Donald Trump, whatever he's, like you just defend him, whatever. Like the people that are defending the adjudicated rapists, the guy that tried to overthrow the country, the guy that was convicted of 34 felonies, the guy that stole and possibly sold national secrets, the guy that waved the plans to invade Iran in a writer's face, the guy who has like documented lies 35,000 times just in the first term and gotten it worse, the guy who is an overtly racist person who is just calling people from third world's trash, or what he calls third world countries, he's calling them trash. The guy that is like telling Europe that immigrants are going to destroy Europe, the guy that says immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country, the guy that quotes Hitler, like him you will defend at all costs, and anybody who disagrees with him has some sort of mental disease. No, I think the people with TDS are the ones that talk about TDS. The ones that defend Trump no matter what. Okay, so yeah. Always got to go after my wife's fidelity. I don't know why that is. Most all drugs are smuggled by way of those who made submarines that are just above the waterline. This is not true. This is another made up thing. This is just not true. Because we are starting to get rid of illegal immigrants, this is happening. U.S. rent prices are generally going to or stabilizing after a period of rapid. No, nothing you said is true. Like, rent prices are going up. And I mean, why do you people insist on just like making up and regurgitating lies? FDR's wife ran the country for the last 2 years. Okay. Really, he didn't know you. Okay. He didn't know you. I don't know who didn't know me. Trump gutted 24% of the VA, making it harder to get health care. And then he talked about how much he did for the veterans. Donald Trump is a crook. If you're still supporting him, then you are a fool. If you ever supported him, you're a fool. But if you still support him, you've just like quadrupled down on being a fool. Where you, as he says, they have not smuggled drugs over the border by the way of vehicles in your. That's just like provably false. Like, where you get this information, I have no idea, but it is not anywhere near anything anybody who has ever said anything that is based in reality has said. Inflation is going up. It is. That's a documented fact. If MAGA are fascists, what do you plan to do with them? Well, I hope to beat them. And MAGA is fascism. Like, the whole thing. I've got entire shows, and I've had this conversation so many times. But yes, MAGAs are fascists. Or MAGAs are fascists. Donald Trump is a fascist. If you support fascism, you're a fascist. What do I plan to do with them? I hope to defeat them through fair, honest, democratic elections. We're back to the conversation about the Biden documents, but he had some from being a vice president and some from being a senator. The thing is when you're a vice president or a senator, you're not like boxing up your own, boxes when you're on your way out. So it's a question of whether or not he knew those documents were in there, and whether or not like you plan, like the laws for this are you have to have possession of them, you have to knowingly have possession of them, and you have to show an intent to distribute them. Or anyway. And as far as like the documents case goes, a lot of the like it wasn't charged because they were classified documents or something like that. The whole problem with them is that he refused to give them back. He was being prosecuted for stolen documents, not being prosecuted for being in possession of classified documents. One big distinction that the news doesn't make for you. The agency, which is supposed to be looking after the presidential documents, kept trying to get them back, and he kept keeping them and lying about them. It wasn't just about the classified documents. It was about all of the documents and stealing them and not returning them. Right. And like, what does it matter if people are trans? Vast majority of trans people don't do harm to anybody. And actually, you're like a lot more likely to be harmed if you're a trans person than to do harm. There's never been a prosecuted case of a trans woman assaulting somebody in a woman's bathroom. And if like there's people that will, like, there was a girl that was getting bullied who like fought back against her bully, or there was like a trans person that uh was convicted of assaulting somebody in a bathroom in her house. Like these random things that people find and they're like, see? And it's like, no, this does not prove that trans people are a threat, or that if you're peeing in a stall next to a woman, you're going to get beat up or raped or something. And it's not like there's a magic door that men can't walk through if trans people have rights or don't have rights. Like, a man can still come into a women's restroom and rape somebody if, trans people are allowed rights. Yeah, this is just crazy. No, Donald Trump is not going on Mount Rushmore. Like, MAGAs are just so weird with your like infatuation with, I call it, there's a word that I call sycophantasy. And it's a combination of sycophant and fantasy. And they like have these like paintings of Donald Trump as like some like centaur warrior astronaut guy or something like that. And and he's like all buff and he has this full lustrous hair and he's still somehow recognizably Donald Trump, but he is this lampoon of who he actually is. Like, it's like Paul Bunyan legends or something, to where like the actual reality of Donald Trump is so distorted that it's not even real. And they not only have this fantasy Trump, they are completely devoted to this fantasy Trump. They're sycophants of fantasy Trump, which is why I call it sycophantasy. And then gasoline also came back down, and there's all kinds of reasons for the reasons it went up, and none of them have to do with Joe Biden. And there's reasons it was low, and none of them have to do with Joe Biden. It has much more to do with the international price of oil. And the international price of oil was down because of COVID and because anyway. Just anybody that's like going to make inflation about the acts of a single president are generally pretty stupid. The only exception to that is if the inflation is a result of tariffs that are laid by the one person. Inflation is a complex thing that actually rarely has anything to do with presidential policy. Trump already is king of the assholes, and the assholes worship him. Do you care about reality? Yes. Trump is a cook. He is. And it's like some of the stuff he does that they don't even, like, he's made $11 billion off of his second term already. $11 billion off of hawking pardons. The rich took your money. Trump is a crook. Biden had we're back to the Biden documents discussion. Okay, I don't know what that means. I'm a Democrat regurgitating fool. A garbage Democrat regurgitating fool, apparently. Veterans do not want a social experiment in their foxholes. Are you a veteran? I'm just curious. Because as far as I'm concerned, I don't think, like, when I was a veteran, I told my story earlier, I didn't really care if people were gay or straight. I don't think I would care if people were transgender or not. And they're not social experiments. Trans people have been around through like every civilization and history. And they're not experiments, they're just people. Tariffs are aid by the 99%. Yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and I mean, like tariffs, they're not just a tax; they're a regressive tax, and I don't think that, like, this is one thing that I think Hillary or that Kamala should have emphasized more. Like she talked in the debates about how Donald Trump wants a tax. I think she should have emphasized tariffs are a tax on the poor. He wants to replace progressive taxes with regressive taxes. He wants, like, she should have hammered that more. That's one of the things that I think that she did not do well in her campaign. She didn't make enough of a point about how bad tariffs were. Because, like, the number one thing that was Googled after he won was like people finding out, wait, tariffs are that bad? It is not legal for a former president or vice president to unilaterally remove and retain classified documents. This is true. But I think that there's a difference between like unknowingly and knowingly having them removed. Like there's no evidence that Joe Biden knew that those documents were in that box, which I would assume if he did know, he would have done something with them before he asked the FBI to move them or to come search his house. The only thing that can be done, make sure that kids are taught critical thinking skills, science-based skepticism, and media literacy so they can spot propaganda. They are so far gone. When I was I believe that we should teach propositional logic in high schools. And I think you should have to pass a propositional logic course in order to graduate. You know, and if you've never taken it, it's like just taking any logical argument and teaching how logic works into a mathematical formula. Like if A is C and B is, or if some of A is B and some of B is C, are all of C A, and you like figure out how to like work this out as a math formula to whether or not this is true. Has nothing to do with an actual word argument. But what you do is once you figure that out, then somebody says something and you learn how to break that argument down into actual logic. Like anyway, I think that we should teach that. I think that if people really actually knew how to think and not what to think, we would be better as a society. I know that Jared, he says, no, Biden's kid took the money. I don't know what money Biden's kid took. Remember the cokehead Hunter? Yes, I know Hunter Biden had a cocaine problem. I didn't vote for Hunter Biden. I don't know who he took money from. I know Jared Kushner was given billions of dollars from Saudi Arabia. But the money I'm talking about with Donald Trump in the second term is the cryptocurrency that he got for pardoning the CEO of Binance. And then they wrote his currency for him, and he's got $11 billion in cryptocurrency as a result. As a direct result of selling a pardon. I don't know what that has to do with Hunter Biden. And let's talk about Schumer. And like, I don't know why we have to talk. Here's the problem with the whole butt Democrats thing is you can, if why? Let's say that both Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are crooked. And does that mean it's okay for Donald Trump to be crooked? Or does that mean it's okay? Like, is it okay for both of them to be crooked, or is it okay for neither of them to be crooked? If your issue in you're trying to bring this up is that there's not logical consistency, what is the consistency you're looking for? Would you like them both to be crooked, or does it not matter that either one is crooked? Paid. Yes, paid. He was well paid. In red state, stupidity is a social disease. Interesting. Weren't you the guy that was talking about how we're only smuggling drugs over the water? Were you being sarcastic with that? So are you saying trans people do not exist? No, I'm saying trans people absolutely exist, unless you're asking somebody else. They're spending your social security to pay people to lie to you. I don't know what that means. The current U.S. inflation rate is yes, and that's higher than it was when Donald Trump took office, and that's also from September. And there's a lot of evidence to suggest it has gone up since then. But because Donald Trump wouldn't allow these things to be tracked during the shutdown, we're not going to know what it is for a while. And the reason we're not going to know what it is for a while is he doesn't want you to know what it is for a while. So he can keep having you believe that it's not fake. But I've been to the grocery store. I buy groceries. I know when my grocery prices are going up. Biden wasn't president or a former president. He can't. This has nothing to do with being president or former president. That's just not true. The Presidential Records Act was actually written because Richard Nixon tried to take records. It was written to prevent the president from assuming that he has those records. Like, actually read the Presidential Records Act. Gender is sociology. There's gender is sociology, but there's also science behind being trans. Like there's some people that like have both sex organs or whatever, but there's also, and this is where like 95% of people, scientists will agree and 5% won't. There's stuff that goes on a chromosomal level that has nothing to do with your sex organs, but has a lot to do with your chromosomes that determine how your brain thinks and how your brain operates. So somebody like, and this can, like, the first thing that's decided is what sex organs you're going to have. So you can have a penis, and then after that, your body changes its mind, and all the chromosome development and all the stuff that happens in your brain with like your brain chemistry and whatever, all that develops and says you're a female, but your penis tells you you're a male. And so you grow up with your penis telling you one thing and your brain telling you another. And just in terms of subjective reality, what matters more to people? Like, what are you? Are you your penis, or are you your mentality? It's and then you're asking people to say, no, you need to tell your brain you're wrong because your penis means more than what your brain is saying. And they're like, but I can't do that. I can't actually just change my brain. I can change my sex organ, but I can't change my brain. So you're listing all these things as though just typing hoax as though it makes things untrue. There was a January 6th insurrection. I don't know about the koi fish. I don't know what that was. Trump did mock a disabled person. I mean, like, just yelling the word hoax doesn't justify things. It doesn't make things go away. November 2nd, 1999, 20 years, boom, COVID. It was a failed success. How do you have a failed success? I don't know what any of this means. Some stuff I like when I say I don't know what this means. Like, it's just really random and weird, and I have no idea what you're talking. Like, I don't know what right-wing nutjob conspiracy theory you're quoting there. I think your mother has been child abuse in YouTube long. Your something, I'm blanked up in the head. God bless your mother. All right, my mother is dead. She died in a fire. Thanks for bringing that up. The matter is, you tried to push your beliefs on the kids and group white men out. I have no idea what that means. Um, okay. Yeah, so this guy's just typing up things Trump did bad and saying hoax afterwards. And love how misogyn. Anyway, oh, why do you why do you suppose God tried to make all these transgenders? I don't remember them. Um, okay, transgender people have been around since like civilization. And there are some civilizations where transgender people were actually honored, where they were like the priests and priestesses. Um, I think that if God made them, then he made them from the beginning of humanity. If you don't remember them being around when you were younger, it's because like for it left-handed people existed for millennia, but we were told left-handed people were evil, so they learned to live right-handed, and they just operated as right-handed people. Once we started to realize there was nothing wrong with being left-handed, and people who were genetically left-handed just used their left-handed, it's not like they just decided they were going to become left-handed or something. It's society changed and left-handed became acceptable, and so there were more left-handed people. And if you look at statistics comparing the emergence of left-handed people and the emergence of trans people and the emergence of gay people as we normalize being gay, it's all the same. The same trend and pretty much the same pace. It's not like people just became gay because we said it was okay to be gay, or became left-handed because we said it was okay to be left-handed. They just stopped hiding it. You watch only. Okay, I don't know what that means. I actually don't even watch a lot of news. I mostly do my research through reading, which is something apparently maggots don't like to do. I watch clips on Fox where people just say things that aren't true. I agree that other countries are laughing at us to the tune of, I don't know what, to the tune of 18. I don't know what made up thing you're talking about. I don't know what 18 trillion they're laughing about. Recently, yeah, I talked about this yesterday. I don't want to talk about it again. There were people that defrauded the government. And there were some people that were Somali involved in it. That does not mean all Somalian people are bad. And most of the individuals charged weren't actually Somalian. Some of the people that were involved were Somalian. Okay, so you're just going to keep. Okay, so Paul's just still type. Dude, do you know where your cap lock key is? You're like the guy that's always shouting in the room and everybody's asking you to quiet down. It doesn't matter I don't know why we're just jumping back into the fishing boat conversation. Again, if they were drug boats or fishing boats is doesn't matter. Murdering them either way is illegal. So you're just are you just gonna keep typing that? All right, boy, you're just really you're just control V and all right, we're just gonna get rid of this guy because he is. We're gonna put him in a timeout first and see if that works. Yeah, we have they have trace minerals and this is something I think that we talk a lot about the oil, but I think the trace minerals are there too. And just with Trump's fascination on trace minerals and crypto and AI, and it just seems to be this thing that he's really focused on. That I wouldn't be surprised if it was more about that. I can't speak for everyone else that doesn't agree with you is here. I'm here because I don't like arguing in an echo chamber. There's no point in that. Okay. But do you like, does it matter if you're arguing in an echo chamber if you're not willing to actually listen? Like you're not engaging on a logical level. You're not engaging. You're not taking things and saying, okay, I understand you're saying this, and then responding to the thing I to the point I made. You're just saying stuff. So whether you're in an echo chamber or not doesn't matter if you're not listening. You might as well be in an echo chamber if you're not listening. Echo chambers, it's not about whether or not you're saying anything, it's whether or not you're hearing anything. You're not open to new information and getting new information. There were no immigration laws for like over 100 years. There were no immigration laws. Anybody that came over here could come. Anybody that wanted to could come over here. There weren't immigration laws. We had borders, but we didn't have immigration laws. They didn't have visas. You think it went online and typed out a little, like, learn history, please. Obama deported more people than Trump, which is true. 10 million people. You realize that 4 million people also were returned. And 10 million, like, actually learn reality, please. People came over here and requested asylum. Some of them were granted asylum hearings. Other people, there were anyway. Like, I can't have conversations with people that don't accept reality as a starting point. Or, like, you're a naive and gullible simpleton. Okay. We have, yes. We also had immigrants. We had borders in the sense that we protected from foreign invasion, like actual invasion. But we did not have closed borders in the sense that we didn't allow people to immigrate. I don't know. Are you like on purpose refusing to recognize there's a distinction? Do you think that we didn't have a military while Joe Biden was president, that we wouldn't defend an invasion of an armed invasion from another country because we allowed immigrants? Like, think. Okay, we got Mr. Patriot Watcher that has curse words and slurs and an American flag to back them up because they do not have the brain cell today. All right. Kelly would have been the name of my third son. She was forced to. Like, why is it so? Like, you got this, like Patriot Watcher here. Why is it always the Republicans that are most upset about how Kamala Harris became the Democratic nominee? Like, why should I care what you think about it, Patriot? You didn't vote for it. It's not like you were going to vote for Joe Biden. Yes, because she was trying to. No, not true. She waited like a month to do an interview, and then when people heard her speak, her poll numbers went down. Neither of those things is true. I mean, she was trying to actually put together a campaign before she gave an interview. She wanted to actually figure out what her policy was. Do you realize, like, becoming president means like actually having a platform? She wasn't planning on it. She didn't have a platform ready. She was actually trying to rush and put together a platform in 30 days. And then like people were like, why isn't she giving an interview? Well, she wanted to have her platform first. She wanted to be able to answer questions that she was going to be asked. I don't know about what I stated about Kamala and those campaign funds is not a baseless claim. You can look it up. I have no idea what you're talking about. I didn't say anything about campaign funds being a baseless claim. I don't know what campaigns your friends you're talking about. And I'm also sort of in the middle of a podcast, so right now I can't stop what I'm doing and go look at something up on AI. Yes, I know that there were no primaries voted Kamala as a candidate. I know that. I don't know if you weren't here when I explained that, but I'm not going to go through it again. I only have the knowledge acquired by following both sides of so this is a negative thing. Like, I only have the knowledge acquired by like actually looking at both sides and considering things. Okay. Mega. All right. So we're 3.5 hours in, and I have to pee. I mean, like, people need to understand this. There's this notion that Kamala Harris, the whole thing, like, I've never heard anybody actually give a reasonable explanation of what an alternative might have been. She was put in a position and she did what she could. Yeah, that's what you like to think, isn't it? But that's actually not true. Oh, you're talking to Leonard Skinner or whatever his name is. Biden's lax border, but Biden didn't have a laxed. I don't even know what a laxed border policy is. How does one like laxed border policy in order to seem like compassionate human open the flood? That's just like, all of that is nonsense. And resistance in letting people get away from the fact that Donald Trump is a pedo. Are you Glenn Beck? Are you asking me if I'm Glenn Beck? I don't know if anybody has ever confused me with Glenn Beck. They just won the majority. What are you talking about? No, they won a plurality of the votes. Again, if you don't know the difference between majority and plurality, Google it. Donald Trump won the popular vote. He did not win the majority of the popular vote. Do you know how much vegetables have went up since they deported all the workers? I don't actually. That's it. That's actually something. I wish we had the data on that, because I think that's where it's going to be interesting. We've had our first harvest season that's going to be impacted by that. But based on my trips to the grocery store, I think some things have gone up a lot. Okay. How many illegals are here then? Well, I think most studies show it's around 10 or 11 million that are people that are here illegally. And that's including people that were here before Joe Biden was president. I don't know what new classification system you're talking about. That's nonsense. Anyway, I don't know why you're so obsessed with trans people existing. Like, why does it matter to you? Like, what does it matter to you if a man, if a trans woman exists and gets to live her life as a woman? Why does that matter to you? Why is this something you obsess over? It's kind of weird that you want to spend that much time and energy obsessing over how another human being lives their life that has zero impact on you. Okay. You're not MAGA, but you support President Trump's policies. Good for you. I don't know what policies you affirm or deny or whatever, but have a nice day. I think he's got crappy policies. I think mass immigration or mass deportations are hurting the country. I think that what he sent to Europe, I don't know if you saw that. Personally, I think fascism is bad. You like fascism? Vote for it. Whether you like Trump or not, vote for fascism if you're a fascist. Just don't deny it's fascism. Okay. They prioritize their shared hatred of everyone on the pumpkin spice pedo's actual criminal actions. Okay, so all right, I'm going to bump down to the bottom. No, it does not mean he won the popular vote. It does not mean he won the majority of the public. That's not okay. Since you're incapable of looking something up, a plurality of the vote means you won. You got more votes, but you didn't get over half the votes. The majority of the votes means you got over half the votes. I think he got like 49%. He won a plurality of the votes. He actually got the most votes, unlike in 2016, where he didn't even get the most popular vote. He did win the popular vote, but he did not win a majority of the popular votes. Words mean things, Todd. And if you're going to argue with somebody, if you're going to correct people, at least make sure you're right first. Affordability was it a Democratic hoax? See, okay, so now it's a Democratic hoax. But when things were cheaper under Biden than they are right now, which they are, because inflation, prices are higher right now than they were under Biden. But now affordability is a hoax. But when Trump was running on affordability, it wasn't a hoax. Do you want to tell me how things got more affordable by getting more expensive? Because that's a weird talking point. I mean, if you can cry that Biden stole, can't Trump? I'm sorry. I think you're talking to somebody else. He won the majority. He actually won all 50 states. That's just weird. He did not win all 50 states. Lie. Somebody is doesn't want to hear the truth. All we can do is give pure. I don't care what pure research says. Whoever is pure research, but most people say 11 million, which has actually gone down because of the mass deportations. Yes, I am right. You just saying I'm wrong on everything doesn't change reality. Biden had there was inflation under Biden. That does not mean Biden caused the inflation. The number one driver of inflation under Biden was the supply chain disruptions that happened as a result of COVID. So if you want to blame Biden for inflation because of COVID, then it's fair to blame the jobs lost under Trump because of COVID. Why is it that MAGAs want to blame Biden for things that happened because of COVID, but give Trump a pass for things that happened because of COVID? Biden did not cause inflation. He just happened to be president while there was inflation. Donald Trump, on the other hand, passed tariffs, which literally caused inflation. That's what they are actually designed to do, is cause inflation. But you're okay with that. Have a nice day. Thanks for joining. I probably got to run too. At least I've got to pee. I just find it funny how they calculate it. Find what funny, who calculates what. Oh, okay. I think there was somebody else that mentioned affordability being a hoax. But yeah, I agree with you. I think there's some hypocrisy going on there. Biden made me gay. I mean, hey, some people find out later in life, and if you think he's attractive, that's on you. I don't fault you for that. Trump is not my daddy. If he were my daddy, then he would have disowned me because I joined the military. Okay, they definitely can't get an accurate number. I mean, it's not like there's an official tally or something, but it's funny how there's like the number depends on whatever weird thing Trump said last. It's like it's not 20 million or 30 million, like he likes to say. Most of the way, like based on the ways that they measure it and stuff, most people that look at it will tell you there's around 11 million. I mean, could it be 14 million? Possibly. Could it be 8 million? Possibly. I don't even know what that means. Biden won in 2020. The reason I think that Trump won, or that he won in 2020, is there were just a lot less voters. And I think there were a lot less voters because a lot of the states didn't have the same voting laws in 2020 as in 2024. They just made it harder to vote. And that's why we had fewer voters. That's why the states he won in 2016 and lost in 2020, he won again in 2024. I'm not saying he didn't win. I'm not saying he didn't win in 2024. So there was somebody that's saying she got crushed, get over it. I'm not. Yeah, I think that's what I think you're talking to the guy that said he doesn't like to be in a bubble. I think he just likes to come in and yell things so that, he can act like he owned me or something. But he doesn't actually have any. Biden said he could cure cancer. I don't think he said he could cure cancer, honestly. I think, if I remember right, that in 2020, Donald Trump said he had the cure to cancer, but he wouldn't let people know what it was unless he won. And so apparently we're never going to know the cure to cancer because Joe Biden won. This is a bit of a misleading thing. How many of those were returned? Like, here's the problem with a lot of these kind of people that entered. How do they know those people entered? Because they were also like apprehended, and then they were returned. Um, and especially like while we had security measures with COVID, you could have somebody come over, like Jose would come over on Monday, and they'd say, "You got to go back. You're not legal." Then Jose could come over Tuesday, and they'd send him back, and they'd come over and go back 30 days in a row. And so that's 30 apprehensions and 0 times that Jose is actually over here. So that's a problem with the whole 14 million illegals. There were 14 million, 18 million encounters. Every encounter does not mean that there's somebody over here. Like you're using the wrong stat to make a conclusion here. Biden policies but the Biden policies may have contributed to inflation. The stimulus contributed to inflation, but it did not cause all the inflation. The same way that Trump's stimulus contributed to this inflation, but did not cause all of it. There was the inflation was caused partly by stimulus spending by both presidents. Inflation was mostly caused. The number one contributor was not that. It was the supply chain disruptions. The number two contributor was the energy disruptions caused by the Ukraine war. So to then the fourth leading, the third leading thing was the stimulus spending by both presidents, and the fourth leading thing was actually like corporate profiteering off the inflation. So there was a number of things that caused inflation. To call it all, to put it all on Biden is just economically illiterate. There's no economy, even like the Heritage Foundation, which is not exactly the most left-leaning group in the world, did a study of it, and they said only 40% of it was Biden's fault. And that is an extreme high. And the other thing is, if you're going to blame the stimulus spending under Biden, if you're going to blame inflation on that, then you can't also in the same breath say that Biden doesn't get any credit for the jobs that were recovered. Because the jobs being recovered is the alleged reason that the stimulus caused inflation. Like all these people got jobs and they were back at work and they were spending money again, and that's why prices were going up. But the right wants you to believe that Biden unilaterally caused all this inflation, all because of his stimulus spending, but had nothing to do with the economic recovery. Did I get a head injury? I did, but it didn't affect my thinking. I fell off a trailer when I was 3. My brother threw a parachute guy up to me. I was reaching over, fell down, got a concussion, got a few stitches, but I've been fine. Because MAGA is largely a mindless cult that will defend Trump to the bitter end. Trump has, Trump, a 5-time draft dodger, said John. Yeah. So, yeah, Donald Trump is not exactly the one to make criticisms about being in the military or being a vet. I think he wanted to. It's like now it's Mark Kelly, right? Who's like been on 5,000 combat, or has like 5,000 hours of combat flight and record time in space. But little Daddy Bone Spurs is the real veteran. Biden was just, but you've seen the pictures, right? Where he's like Rambo, Trump-bo. Biden was a harmless old guy that couldn't handle his job. Pumpkin spice is a trafficker and an inhuman monster. Like the evil stuff he does, he's like just murdering people. Okay. The price of haddock has doubled since 4 months ago. I used to get planks for what is haddock? Are there like some kind of? I was thinking fish at first. I don't. Okay, so it is a kind of fish. Or are you talking about haddock flanks? Like the cut. Man, that's expensive. Trump saved the economy. That's just not true. Like virtually every economic indicator is like apart from the stock market, prices are up, inflation is up, uh, GDP is sort of depending. Like if you look at the underlying structure of it, actual production is down. Like there's some stuff going on because of the tariffs, which kind of give you this artificial um, boost to inflation or to the GDP, but it's not real, and it's gonna next quarter it's gonna have a crash. Uh, like he has not actually. The economy is definitely worse now than it was when he took over. Ask any real economist, any macro economist. Like it's just not. That's just like saying that is just bragging that you don't know what you're talking about and being very very insistent that you do. Okay. Trump owns me. He doesn't. How was it Trump took credit for a booming economy just July, but now he is suffering from, you know, that's a great question. And then it's also a hoax, but it's not a hoax. And it's Biden's inflation, but it's not, affordability is a hoax. And, and it's like the MAGA ability to keep two conflicting thoughts in their head at the same time is really remarkable. Like we talk about cognitive dissonance, and cognitive dissonance is actually supposed to be the discomfort when that happens, like when something comes along that conflicts with your existing ideology, and so you like there's a discomfort, a mental discomfort that comes from that. That's what cognitive dissonance is. What they have is like cognitive dissonance, anti-dissonance, or something like that. I don't know what to call it. They'll just like have two completely contradictory thoughts in their head at the same time and be happy and joyful and gleeful about both because they're owning the libs and without any awareness that those things contradict. It's just really weird. Like, how are immigrants both stealing our jobs and, you know, staying at home, living off government support at the same time? I call it Schrodinger's immigrant. Okay. Trump devotion syndrome. There you go. Yeah, the made up stuff. Um, Trump did not lose. Trump didn't. Trump lost in 2020, and Biden did get 81 million votes. Like, laughy faces don't mean that 81 million people didn't vote for him. I have no idea even what that is supposed to mean. So all right. And so like just on the gas prices thing, I would like to point out presidents have very very little to do with gas prices. The main thing that controls gas prices is the cost of oil, the international cost of oil. And that has to do with a lot of things that have nothing to do with America. There are certain things that a president can do for if gas prices are high in America, namely release or release the Federal Oil Reserve, which Biden got criticized for doing when that's the whole reason it exists. Like we have a Federal Reserve or oil reserve because of what happened with OPEC in the 70s and early 80s, where gas prices went through the roof. Anyway, so anyway, we're at 4 hours now, which means I have not peed in 4 hours. So sorry to be so direct. I have to go. And when I say I have to go, I mean I really have to go. So thanks everybody for joining. Hope you have a wonderful day. And whether you're a MAGA or you're not, thanks for your comments because you help keep the show going and lively. Bye.